What up though, One Pride? This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, the podcast where One Pride goes worldwide. My name is Anthony Fitzpatrick. I'm joined this evening by Ryan McCluskey. We are here with the college football podcast, Who Goes the Whole Hog, the Bulldog or Frog? We are here this evening to talk, of course, about many a thing, but Ryan, the college football playoffs have started, bowl season has just ended, and could this be a legitimately compelling case for being not only the best bowl season of all time, but the best college football playoff season of all time?
Bowl season, I'd say, has been up and down. Like, some of the fixtures, I don't like to see the absolute arse whoopings. Like, some of them are not played in very good spirit, or some of them were that one-sided that it got boring. But as far as the playoffs go, in its whole 9-year stint as the college football playoffs, by far the best pair of semi-finals we've ever seen. Like I said, usually you get one that's very lopsided and one that's quite close, but you really could not find anything to... It went down to a hair's width, both of these games, and both losers can almost feel aggrieved by things that happened in the games as well. Like I said, they work without controversy.
I think so, but we're going to talk about the games in a bit. But I think overall, the teams that lost deserve to lose because of their own play at the end of the day. I think this is what it comes down to. It's when you get to the playoffs, if you make mistakes, they're going to cost you big time. And I think there was a big theme going there with that this weekend. Like I say, yeah, this is the college football podcast. We've got a lot we're going to go through this evening, so we're not going to chunt it too much to start with. Today, like I said, we're going to go through the college football playoff semi-finals. We're going to take a look ahead to the Nattie this weekend. We are going to round out bowl season. We talked about the first half last week, and now that's all done and dusted. So we're going to go through a few of the teams and players and some of the games that stood out. We're then in mock draft season. Of course, yes, it is our end of season mock drafts, what me and Ryan do throughout the college season. We do a mock draft halfway throughout the year for the Lions, just sort of see how we feel, vaguely where we're at, and then at the end of the season we do another mock draft to see if our views on players or positions or anything like that has changed. So it's we're going to do that, and then if we've got time, dependent on how long things go on for, we're going to take a look at the Senior Bowl rosters as well. Just going to be a brief overview today. We're going to let you know most of the players who've signed up now, maybe some ones to watch out for, and then in the weeks coming up to it, 'cause it's still not for about 3 or 4 weeks yet, we're going to go in more in depth on some of the players coming through this. So yeah, going to be good fun. Going to be a lot to go through this evening. Shout out to everyone who has joined us on YouTube and Twitch. Nigel Williamson's in YouTube. He goes, "Hi, Roar of the Lions. Anthony, can I talk about the Lions?" If you want to put your Lions chatter in the comments, Nigel, you go ahead. We'll put it in the show. We'll put it in the show somehow. So yeah, fire away with it all. And then on Twitch, we've got a few people in there as well. Ashley is in there. He goes, "Please may I have some FSU beating Oklahoma thoughts at some points if possible. Need a pick-me-up for when I listen to the audio pod when I'm not at work. You beat a really bad defense. Well done." No, I'll try later. We'll talk about the bowl bits later on. Right, just want to quickly go through our little bits and bobs before we start off, when I can get back on my planet. So, Roar of the Lions UK, our Discord, if you want in on that, just let us know. We'll fire you over a link. Loads of people in there at the minute. It's good fun, especially with what's coming up this weekend for the Lions. Roar of the Lions main podcast. This previous Monday, we talked about our demolition job on the Bears, and tomorrow we will be talking Green Bay Packers preview. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is it. The Detroit Lions are playing meaningful football in January, and a possible winner-takes-all playoff appearance at Lambeau Field. We're going to have some fine guests on with us from the UK Packers circuit, hopefully. So there'll be a lot of banter on there. Come on, get your FTPs in there, get your Green Bay hate in there, and we will pass it all along to them. Don't forget to like and sub to everything we do on YouTube. We've just hit 750 subscribers. We are on the last of the, we're at the 3/4 mark on the journey to 1,000. We are going to continue pushing on in that direction. So thank you to everyone who is supporting us on there, and of course Twitch as well. If you're not following us already and you would like to, please do so. We had Lions Fin Fan follow us the other day, so thank you ever so much for that. And David Reinford resubscribed at Tier 1 for 10 months in a row. We love all of you who join us. We thank you ever so much. John Ball's in the chat. He goes, good afternoon from Metamora, Michigan. Good afternoon to you. Hopefully it's well. Hopefully it's a little bit warmer there now at this point in time, as it has been in recent years. And of course, with Lions Nation Unite, Herman Moore's pet project, you'll find all good Lions content creators on there, including ourselves, Detroit Lions on the Prowl, Dose of Dion, Orum's Forum. Great place to go and find lots of good Lions chatter, including ourselves. So go give that a check out as well. Right, let us dive into the show today. I just want to go through a quick bit of news before we start. Little bit of sad news coming out of college football this week. BYU offensive lineman Sion Vicoso was tragically killed in a construction accident in Hawaii. Incredibly sad news there, so obviously thoughts and prayers out to his family. That's just such a tragic thing to happen, especially in the holiday period there. So thoughts to everyone out there at BYU and his family, and friends. Right. Not really much in newsland today. A lot of the head coach hirings and everything's been done, so we are going to move straight on into the college football playoff semi-finals. And Ryan, as we've already said, two absolutely monumental games here. The Fiesta Bowl, TCU versus Michigan. As much as people wanted to root for the underdog in this one, we all said it's going to be Michigan. And then in the Peach Bowl, Georgia and Ohio State. We all thought Georgia were kind of going to run away with that one. The defense was going to do its thing there with them, and boy oh boy, how wrong we were. I know you predicted both games were going to be close, and they were, but still I don't think we were expecting what we got this weekend. TCU maybe upsetting, I don't know, Michigan 51 points to 45, and Georgia sneaking through by the hairs of their chinny chin chin, defeating Ohio State 42 to 41. Obviously, as you can see, defense went completely and utterly out the window this weekend, but it made for some entertaining football. But so before we go into the games and look at them a little more, Ryan, I mean, what a pair of fixtures, and two, in the end, deserved winners, I feel like they were.
I don't know. I feel like I was really underwhelmed by Georgia. Like I said, the defense was terrible. It gave the opportunity for CJ Stroud to look like a star, whereas when Ohio State went up against Michigan, they made him look like a little boy. And they did not cover themselves in glory whatsoever. One of this like historic units completely folded, and the offense had to literally bail them out whenever they could, and some bad Ohio State special teams. So I actually don't think Georgia were that deserving of a winner. I feel like Ohio State really had a chance to win that game, and when it counted, let it slip away. And TCU, they were plucky. Some things went their way. Michigan puffed and puffed, but I think in the end we saw the frailties of a QB that just wasn't ready for the big time. A game that was just too big for him. He just was like a deer in headlights at times. Like you say, we'll talk about the terms, but yeah, he looked like a young sophomore that had not really taken the reins of an offense before, especially in such a high-pressure game. Yeah, both teams, I'd say all four teams rode their luck, but when it came down to it, you really could have flipped a coin.
Yeah.
I think we've got the best matchup.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be interesting. I don't know how it's going to go. It could be really good. It could be really ugly. But these are the two teams I kind of wanted to see how they go against one another.
Yeah, I agreed there. Just shout out everyone who's joining us before we go deep into the games. Yawning Lion says, morning from Guanaya, Honduras. Is it Gwinnett? I apologise if I got that wrong. Brent DeVitt says, cheers from Twin Lake, Michigan. Miss Harley Quinn is in the chat. She goes, I'm at my spa with no clients at the moment, so popping in while I can. Thank you for joining us as always. She goes, what's your favourite college football team, Anthony? It's NC State at the moment, but I sort of flip around. I like the teams who produce players that I like, and NC State are big for that at the moment. Right, so let's dive down into the games. I've seen your question, Nigel. I'll answer it when we've done the college football playoff stuff. So if it just goes up, just repeat it in, and we will put it in there. So first off, we're going to talk about the Fiesta Bowl, TCU Michigan. Now I'm kind of just going to go through the game as it went because a lot went on in here. Then we'll break down some of the stats and the little bits here at the end. So very first play of the game, you're thinking. You were worrying for TCU where it was a 60-yard run for Michigan from Donovan Edwards, and you're just like, oh boy, here they go. This team is going to go to work on them. But it did not turn out to be the case. TCU turned them away. They got all the way down to the red zone. TCU turned them away on downs. The play calling, incredibly questionable from Michigan. They have an award-winning offensive line and a wonderful running back, and they started trying to get Q in there, and they got turned away. TCU punted, but then on the next Michigan possession, J.J. McCarthy, Ryan mentioned it, big stage for him, sophomore, biggest game he's ever been in, throws a killer pick six. That's 7-0 to TCU. They can't convert on the next drive either. They punted again. TCU went all the way down the field. Max Duggan went in for a score after a drive that was helped by Michigan and penalties. The discipline sort of slipped a little bit, so it was 14 to nothing quite soon in this game. Jake Moody, probably the Michigan MVP of the day here, he hit a field goal to bring it back to 14-3. Michigan then offered themselves a way back in the game. They picked off Duggan, although it wasn't really on him. The receiver tipped a pass into the hands of a Michigan DB. But then Ryan mentioned the controversy started. JJ throwing a deep pass to Roman Wilson, who appeared to land in the end zone for a touchdown, but the officials, they call it back to the 1 yard line. But kind of even then you're thinking you've got to get it in from the 1 yard line, but Michigan proceed to fumble the ball on the snap into the end zone. TCU recover, and it's a touchback, so it's not like they even keep them hemmed in on the 1 yard line. It's a turnover and it's a touchback, so 7 points becomes 0 for Michigan. TCU made them pay on the next drive. You had your holy trinity that I call them for TCU come to life. So Kendre Miller had a big run down the sideline. Quentin Johnston, big clutch catch to get them in the red zone. He had a field day against Michigan's secondary. And then Max Duggan with a really great pass under enormous pressure to Tay Barber, who took it in 21-3. It honestly, under such pressure, was a really good throw. And then at the end of the half, McCarthy gets very lucky. He gets stripped of the ball, but it rolls out of play on the last Michigan drive of the half. Michigan are able to get in field goal range, and Jake Moody sinks it in from 59 yards. They go in 21-6 at the half. Just in terms of that first half, Ryan, I think it's fair to say it's categorised by a lot of Michigan errors and TCU just doing the basics right and capitalising on those errors. And it's kind of a backbreaker here because it put Michigan so far behind they never quite recovered from it.
Yeah, Michigan dug themselves a hole. Like I said, penalties, turnovers, like the first pick six, like he just fixates on a receiver, JJ. He just stared at him the moment the ball was snapped. And the DB just sits and just waits and just undercuts the out pass, and the moment it's taken, no one's catching him. I think that was his 5th interception of the year, which passes Darius Washington, like say, like last most picks like last 6 years. So it was really good play there. And then I'm so conflicted. Like I say, the officials, an absolute fucking blunder. Like I say, he captures the ball, he bounces on his ass, he then secures it when he plays into the end zone. The touchdown, but then to cough it up at the 1. Like it's fine to be upset about them not giving a touchdown, but then you've also got to still be mad at them for coughing up the ball at the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
TCU deserve that. Absolutely not, no. Like, they did not deserve that ball back whatsoever. But if you've got to be able to mentally overcome when referees screw you over. You can't afford to shoot yourselves in the foot. At half-time, 21-6, I said, game over. Like, I don't think McCarthy has got the gonads to come back and put this on. If Blake Corum's in this game, I think Michigan win. I think if they can rely on him, I'm not saying Donovan Edwards is bad, but I think Blake Corum was the heart and soul of that team. If they can just a little less of those passes, like I said, a few more check downs. If JJ doesn't feel like he has to go out there and win the game in the first half, they're probably not so far behind. But then on the flip side, yeah, Duggan does nothing wrong. Like I say, Kendra Miller, DeMarcado, the senior, had probably the best game of his career, and I'm so happy for that kid. Like I say, because he came in, Kendra Miller came in and kind of stole his thunder, took his job, but he really took over in this game, and I really got off. And then Quentin Johnston just proves why he's the number one receiver in the draft. Yeah. So yeah, they didn't do much wrong, and yeah, the defense was bend not break TCU, and honestly, Sunday Dykes could not have asked for a better first half of football. Going into the half, like the confidence is wavering. Like, you feel like they're ready to be put away.
And you feel like TCU believe at this point as well. I mean, the defense has been lambasted this season for not being really good, but when it mattered, it's kind of come up clutch. And I'll talk about it when we reach the end. But I think that TCU's schedule and what the way they've had to play and a lot of the nitty gritty affairs, I think, decided this one. But yeah, it was a great first half from them. Michigan, they just put themselves behind the sticks, and when you're that far behind, you're against an explosive offense like TCU, you just leave yourself vulnerable. When you're trying to be aggressive to get the ball back, as we'll see. But yeah, 21-6 at the half, and as you mentioned, Kendre Miller out by this point, so TCU had to deal with losing their star running back, so Emari DeMarcado is in at this point. Then things really got crazy in the second half, so TCU make another stop from 1st and goal in their own 10 at the start of the second. Michigan have to take a field goal. That was their second trip, like within the 5-yard line of TCU, and they came away with 3 points, and you just can't do that, especially in the playoffs. Moody hits it 21-9. Mike Sanra then picks off Max Duggan. That was a poor throw this time. And then the offense sort of complements that pick. It pulls out a flea flicker, a very nice one. JJ finds Ronnie Bell for a 34-yard touchdown. That is 21-16, and you're thinking, oh, maybe TCU, maybe this is it now. But they respond with a drive, and honestly, this is one of the most beautiful drives I have seen all season. They sliced Michigan open, right open. Quentin Johnston again, another huge catch to get them away from their end zone. Emari DeMarcado wrecked them on the ground. He takes it in for a TCU touchdown. Instant response, 28-16, the lead is put up again, and then the real backbreaker of this one. JJ McCarthy throws his second pick six of the game. This was a disgustingly bad throw. I'm sorry, but it was. D. Winters is sat there at linebacker watching him. His eyes are just laser focused on his receiver. He doesn't even try to give away that he's going elsewhere. Winters undercuts the route. TCU open up a lead, 35-16, 19-point gap. It's just too much at this point to come back from. But give him credit. JJ did have some bad moments in here. He responds with a rushing touchdown himself to bring it back to 35-22, but they missed the 2-point conversion. Maybe a bit too early to start going for those. We're still in the third quarter at this point. Emari DeMarcado then pulls off a wonderful run from TCU's own 30 to Michigan's 1. This is where, like I said, Michigan were getting desperate. They blitzed on here. They miss him. They left the field all wide open for him, and it took 3 guys coming over from the other side to bring him down at the 1, but TCU finish it off. Duggan quarterback sneaks it over the line, 41-22. Michigan strike right back. JJ to Ronnie Bell for nearly 40 yards. He's downed at the TCU 1-yard line, and Mullings, who I believe is the fullback there, he's the one who fumbled the one earlier in the game. He get in this time. They got the 2-point attempt, and it's 41-30 TCU. That's the end of the third quarter. Beginning of the fourth, another ray of hope for Michigan. DeMarcado fumbles the ball, and Michigan recover Roman Wilson on the end around takes it in via some aerial acrobatics into the end zone. Michigan are right back in the game. Bell converts the 2-point attempt and the TCU lead is 3 at 41-38. But then, perhaps the biggest play of the game all told, TCU 3rd and 7, possibly going to have to kick it back. Duggan dumps it off to Quentin Johnston, who gets the edge. He jukes the hell out of a Michigan DB who doesn't even touch him on the tackle attempt. He puts the afterburners on and he takes it to the house for a 76-yard touchdown to take away all Michigan's momentum. It was a sensational play from the best receiver in this draft. Coming up, like I say, 48-38. Then TCU's defense finally started to make stops. They bottled them up in their own 10. A really horrible punt from the Michigan punters returned to the 15. TCU couldn't make them pay, but they were able to take time off the clock. They hit a field goal. They made it 51-38. Michigan's offense has the worst time to have a few dud drives where they have to punt. TCU is able to run down the clock. JJ finally does connect with Roman Wilson for a touchdown though, but there's only 3:18 left. Michigan take the extra point. It's 51-45, one-score game, but TCU get a very critical first down, which forces Michigan to burn all their timeouts. They do get the stop eventually, but there's less than a minute to go on the game-winning drive, and TCU holds firm. And on the final play of the game, maybe reminiscent of the Michigan State game from a while ago, trouble with the snap. The snap bounces off McCarthy's knee, goes for a merry-go-round, ends up in Michigan hands. They start trying to lateral it, but TCU get the stop. Turnover on downs to kneel out a huge upset for TCU. But Ryan, I mean, what a fun second half that was. It just degenerated into a shootout and both teams just going hell for leather with it. But TCU's defense, just when they needed them to, just made those couple of extra stops to get them over the line.
Yeah, TCU start the second half poorly. Like I said, the interception from McDuggan is bad. I don't even know who he's aiming at. It's just kind of hopeless ball. But McCarthy one, he stares the receiver down. He tries to go over the linebacker underneath the corner, and like he puts no touch on it whatsoever. He just throws a bullet. And Winters is literally, like I said, there's no one there to stop him. He just saunters in the end zone. He had to float that ball to try and get it over him, but no. Another dreadful throw, like I say, and that right there kind of sets the tone. Like I say, it's going to be an ugly, scrappy second half, and for everything good they did, both sides, yeah, it was hella ugly. Like I say, the special teams of TCU was good. Like I say, pinned them deep a few times. Like I say, and the defense stops them short, so they had to punt. Michigan punter didn't have a great day. Like I say, they were buried back a few deep a few times, but at least he was getting it out. And then, yeah, like I say, the end, like I say, the flea flicker after the turnover, the capitalised straight away on a really nice play that catches the defence sleeping. I think it's a blown coverage, like I say, the safety is just nowhere to be seen. He just saunters into the end zone.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the Quentin Johnston catch, like you say, because it's like 3rd and like 7, like the TCU very deep at the base of their own goal line. If they've got a punt here, they're probably going to give Michigan the ball at halfway, but dumps it out, like I say, and just makes something happen for yards, gives them room, carries on a drive, and in the end, that's a field goal. But yeah, I've got to give credit to a lot of Michigan. Like I say, a lot of things in that game didn't go their way. Like I say, they rode the luck sometimes to turn the ball over. The 2-point conversion, the first one, total mistake. Way too early to go for it. Yeah. I bet they wished I had that back in the end. They lost by more than 2, but still, it was too early. Yeah, it was the blitz package. Like I say, they send the house, and DiMarcado gets to the edge. There's no one to set the edge. There's no cornerback. There's no safety. By the time the house, he's already passed the entire defense, and it's just a leg race. And the fact someone caught him was a fantastic tackle. Like I say, it's a proper last-ditch save the legs tackle. But in the end, they still concede points from it. So TCU, they turn the ball in the second half. The fumble almost, like I said, cost them the game. Ending that fourth, starting the third. I couldn't believe, like I said, they're on third, like 30-yard line. It coughs it up or like that. Don't give Michigan hope. Like I said, don't give them any more desire or anything like that. But in the end, TCU escape with a good win. Like I say, this was very reminiscent of how most of the games have gone this year. They've had to outlast teams nearly all season.
And this is what, for me, I don't know whether you agree, but I think this is where TCU have the advantage of playing in the Big 12. They have had to face this adversity a lot more often. Don't forget there was the last second field goal against Baylor to keep the unbeaten record going. They've had sort of walk-off touchdowns. They've been run very close, and in those moments of adversity, for all the doubt we've put on them, they've always stood up and made it to the end. The only difference was the Kansas State game, and they got screwed by the refs technically in that one. But this is a team that has had setbacks, that's been doubted, that's been ridiculed, that's been, because Michigan fans were saying TCU didn't deserve to be in this game with them. There was no hope. It was, their fans were so, a lot of them were really arrogant going into this. But every single time, TCU have just gone about their business and said, we're going to play and we're going to play well. The defense comes up with critical turnovers, 2 pick sixes, forcing fumbles on the goal line, stopping them from getting points. Kendre Miller gets injured, the running back reserve comes up, and just, you wouldn't know. They out-battled Michigan in the trenches. Was it 260 yards rushing they put on Michigan? No one does that to them. Not that defensive line. And then, conversely, their defensive line stopped them running on them. I know Donovan got over 100 yards, but 60 of those were on the first play of the game. After that, he's going at about 4 yards a clip. You've got to give TCU a hell of a lot of credit for this, because of the season, the way they've been doubted, and the way that they took this Michigan team on in their strong point, because we said this would need to be a passing game for TCU to win, but they went into the trenches and outright battered them. I just don't think Michigan were prepared mentally or psychologically for this one. The fans were overlooking them, and I think the team overlooked them as well.
Yeah, when they were to be so far behind at halftime, it was a slap to the face. I don't think they saw that coming. And by then, yeah, they could have won the game, but by then they're so far behind, their game plan goes out the window. The play calling got better, more imaginative. But TCU had the confidence they needed to ride out to the end. This TCU team is very similar to this season's Minnesota Vikings. Like I said, times they've been rolled out, they've not played well. They've played nearly all one-game scores all season, win a lot of games. When it comes down to crunch time, when it really mattered, like you've only got to look at games like the Bills. Like I said, the Vikings stood up when it counted, got it over the line. And TCU have done that all year as well. They've always been plucky. They've always been hard to beat. Not always been attractive, not always been confident, but when it came into like the fourth quarter, a lot of them came into their own, and they could trust special teams as well. Like I said, when it got down to it, field goals, punts, when they had to change field position, they always knew that they were able to execute right at the end. And like I say, we didn't talk about, like I said, the final play of the game, the shovel pass, which I think there should have been a targeting call, like I say, which would have given them another chance. But the referees, most people understand, probably too scared, probably didn't have the bollocks to call it. I say pretty much the definition. Player comes in, crown of the head, lowers it. Don't aim in the back of the head, but it hits him in the back of the neck, like the middle of the back. It's definition of lowering the head and using it as a weapon.
Yeah.
And people think it shouldn't count because it's no forward feeble pass. I'm pretty sure it was a lateral, and it came from the quarterback. So I'm pretty sure it was a total illegal pass, and that Michigan probably should have had a fresh set of downs.
Yeah. But you still
no one would have wanted to see it end that way, and I just don't think they wanted to call it. I just feel like if they call that game and, like say, Michigan escape with a win somehow, the backlash would just be too much. They'd want to do it, so they just decided to just let it stand. But I think it would have been an awful way for TCU to have lost.
Yeah, and don't forget, Michigan completely botched that snap, so it's kind of like, it would kind of feel really hard on TCU that Michigan just completely botch it, it bounces off into the scrum, they somehow get it, they're throwing laterals everywhere. It just seems a harsh one, but I mean, don't forget, there was no timeouts, and there was very little time on the clock, so TCU would have just sat deep. I'm not saying they couldn't have done it, but the odds would have been really against them anyhow. But for me, I just love the way TCU playing this. They've been written off all season, and like I said, when the fumble happened and Michigan got within 3, you're thinking, is this where they break? No, Quentin Johnston, leader on the team, stands up, makes a play when he needs to. Duggan made the play in the first half, that incredible throw under pressure. Just the leaders stood up as and when they needed to and made the plays, and I was really happy with that. But I just want to point out a few guys for special attention on their defense who played well. D. Winters, talked about him having the pick 6 on the day. He had 3 pressures, a hit, 2 hurries, 10 tackles on the day, 5 run stops, targeted 4 or 5 times, but just for 24 yards. He had a pass breakup as well as the pick 6. And the big one, I think, Ryan, we can agree, Dylan Horton. What a game he had. He's the left defensive end there. 6 pressures on the day, 3 sacks, 1 quarterback hit, 2 hurries. He's got 3 tackles, 5 run stops, and there's a pass breakup in there for him as well. These are 2 of the better guys on their defense there, and like on the offense, when they needed it, the leaders on the defense stood up and made the plays which ultimately won them the game.
Yeah, the usual guys like Travius Hodges Tomlinson had a quiet to difficult day. Probably the most stern test to face. Like, they were a bit quieter, but some of the lesser known guys, I'd say, stepped up. People probably didn't know who Dylan Horton was before this season. I say the linebacking crew were really well. I say so. Tay Barber had a good game. It's usually always the Quentin Johnson show, but no, the other guys were there. So, and the offensive line as well were really good. So, yeah, it was definitely a day for heroes to be made. Like I said, I don't know where Michigan goes from here.
I was just about to ask this now, because where does Michigan go? Because obviously last year, I think they were not expected to lose to Georgia, but they were underdogs, and you can accept getting beaten by Georgia last year because they just swept everyone and everybody. But you come into your second year, you're thinking, right, a lot of these players have playoff experience now. They're a year wiser. They've steamrolled the division. They've just steamrolled Ohio State again. And they're coming up against the TCU team who people consider to be weaker, which I think is harsh on them. But they're outright favourites, 7.5-point favourites. And they've lost again. And, there's going to be talent going to the draft this year, but for the most part, they are bringing a lot back. But, yeah, where do they go from now?
Well, Jim Harbaugh might leave.
Yeah.
Blake Corum might not return. Cade McNamara just hit the portal. He said bye. Eric All hit the portal. I said Shoemaker draft. We're going to really see the level of resilience from JJ McCarthy if he can bounce back from this next season and not look like a QB that's hungover or still thinking about last season, because it's going to be difficult. And I'm a firm believer, like I said, Penn State are a real threat to Michigan and Ohio State next year. I think the Big Ten just got way harder. I think Michigan missed a huge chance. I won't be surprised if Michigan don't make the playoff next year. He needs to win the Big Ten. So this was a golden opportunity, and you just can't let it go slip. Like I said, this Michigan side, coaching players could get good, and they've let such a big opportunity go by, and their fans are right to be mortified.
Yeah, I agree. And I was listening to the guy I listened to for college stuff earlier, and he was mentioning this, and he mentioned similarities. Well, he said mention similarities, but he talked about Georgia, how they made the Nattie in 2017, but they didn't get back until last season. It took them a long time. Now, they had to do that by constantly recruiting well, getting better, taking charge of the momentum they had. But the minimum Michigan need to do now is they've got to keep winning Big Ten titles. They've got to keep putting themselves in a position to get in the playoffs until ultimately they're ready. But obviously the one thing Harbaugh's never able to do really well is bring in, the 5-star recruits, the elite guys, the proper wrecking game changers in certain positions. So that, I think, is what they need to focus on now. But it's a big missed opportunity. And psychologically, I think it's going to hurt a lot. But we'll see. They seem like a resilient team, and Harbaugh is probably the coach you would want more than any to coach them through the disappointment, and bring them back again. They did it last year, so we'll see. But congratulations to CCU in the Nattie. We'll talk about them again in a minute when it comes to the final. But let's move on to the second one. And one Big Ten team might feel hard done by that they're not in the Nattie. The other Big Ten team is certainly going to feel like it was hard done by not getting into the Nattie. Of course, we're talking about Ohio State. Don't think they should have been in the first place, just my personal opinion, but they proved themselves worthy in this one. 42-41 defeat to Georgia, and this was another stunning game and a half, but this is one I feel like Ohio State should have won it. I'm going to go through it again as I did with the other in terms of what happened. So Georgia get the ball first, missed an early field goal. It was from beyond 50 though, but still bad. And Ohio State get good field position, and CJ Stroud opens the scoring not long after. 31-yard bomb to Marvin Harrison, who is going to be a sick receiver in the NFL one day. He is amazing. It was actually a really good play from CJ Stroud. He leaves the pocket, sees where Harrison is, actually sort of waves him across to a corner of the end zone, which is completely empty, and launches it right in stride for him. Beautiful pass there. 7-0 Ohio State. Georgia, to their credit though, they hit straight back. They're hard running with Kenny McIntosh. He makes a great play, actually, a pass play. He knifes his way through the center of the Buckeyes defense, takes it for 6, 7 apiece. It was a really beautiful play designed by Georgia, actually. They deliberately let Ohio State's D-line through. All their O-linemen went downfield to block. Stetson Bennett got it out real quick, and McIntosh was able to find a lane due to some great blocking there, but 7 all. Ohio State then get a little lucky. Marvin Harrison gets stripped of the ball, but like with JJ in the other game, it rolls out of bounds. But Ohio State do finish the drive off Mian Williams with a power run from the 3 to get the touchdown. Ohio State 14-7 up already in the second. First quarter went really quickly in this. And then they picked off Stetson Bennett. A real bad throw picked off by Chambers, not like Bennett at all. It was well short of where he was trying to aim it. And then Ohio State made them pay. CJ Stroud with another unreal play for him. He shook off 3 Georgia linemen to find Marvin Harrison in the end zone again. Ohio State 2 scores up, 21-7, and they got them on the ropes at this point, but this is the first of 2 times they let them back in it. Stetson Bennett with a wonderful throw to Smith. Is it Arian Smith they call him? He's when they were down 21-7, it was a big catch for 60 yards, and then the running back Milton finishes the drive off with a touchdown run. It's 21-14 Ohio State. Georgia defense makes a stop, and then the offense goes to work. Kenny McIntosh is stopped from a second touchdown of the day by the turf monster. Very hilarious play from him there. He's gone. He's all the way to the house, and then the turf monster gets him at about the 8. But Stetson Bennett finishes it off. He has a rushing touchdown. He gets to the edge. Georgia erased the deficit. Make another stop. Offense gets a field goal. So Georgia, from being 21-7 down, is 24-21 up. But Ohio State hit back immediately. Stroud finds Xavier Johnson down the middle of the field for a 40-yard TD catch. They had him come out the backfield, put him on the middle linebacker, who kind of just let him go. Didn't really even try to stop him, and he went down. And it's 28-24 to end the half, Ryan. I mean, this was a fun half. Ohio State sort of started off really hot. Georgia worked their way back into it, but then Ohio State just kept knocking at the door and took the lead into halftime, and you realise then we had an instant classic potentially on our hands.
Yeah, it was glaringly obvious that this Georgia D is not last year's Georgia defence. The 2021 defence would not allow this to happen. Marvin Harrison having his ways with defensive backs. Like, we'll talk about Mox later, but Khalil Ringo has been absolutely destroyed by LSU and Ohio State. 2 of the worst games I've ever seen him play. Dreadful. Like I said, he just kept getting beat, kept getting caught out of place, and guys like Malachi Starks having to come over and bail him out, the safety. Bullard, the young guys, like I say, they were really having to try bail out the defensive backs. But yeah, I was surprised by Mayan Williams. Like I said, I didn't think he'd have much of an impact in this game. But the Georgia defensive line went missing. Like I say, for a lot of it. Jalen Carter, who's Jalen Carter? Where was he? Kind of like biggest stage, and I really did not hear his name called around that often. So then the other side, I thought Liam Eichenberg really struggled, the linebacker. They were picking on him over the middle of the field.
Yeah.
They were giving up some catches, but yeah, Kenny McIntosh, super underrated. Like I say, really one of those players in that offense that just does not get enough love at all. But yeah, Darnell Washington did nothing basically most of the game. He did really well at Ohio State to take away Brock and Darnell.
He got injured, didn't he, Darnell, in the end?
I think
he got injured. He was in a boot in the end. He's doubtful for this week.
Yeah, Brock was kept quiet, I think, for most of the first half. Ohio State did a really good job taking him away. Bennett, tries to go to deep corner, to try throw one out to the sideline. The interception just gets nothing on it.
No.
He just falls to the cornerback, who is really unlucky. Could have taken that to the house. Like you say, he's ran down, so Bennett was really lucky at that. Didn't turn into anything bad. But yeah, they played his field goals. Like I say, I think in the end they did play heavily into the game. But at this point, Stroud is looking like an all-pro. Like I say, he's poised. He's getting away from pressure. It's really good. And even though they didn't win the game, he was the winner of the game for me. Like I say, he really answered a lot of critics. So yeah, this one was like you say, was more blow for blow, like a boxing match.
Yeah, and it sort of moved on into the second half like that. So we'll go through the rest of this game, then we can do the Deep Inquisition afterwards. So where did we get to? So Ohio State started off the second half in the third really hot. CJ Stroud finds Egbuka for a touchdown. It's 35-24 Ohio State. 11-point lead, starting to get the gap up again. But then the game turns. Georgia defense, which had been anonymous to this point, makes a huge stop. There's an injury to Marv Harrison, a late hit, which gives OSU a first and goal at the 1. And bearing in mind at this time they are 34-24 up. Georgia's defense stops them, stuffs them 3 times. Ohio State have to settle for a field goal, so it's 38-24 instead of potentially being 42-24, and the game turns on this. And like I say, Georgia down 14 points. They're missing Darnell Washington by this point. Ohio State should be closing this out from here. Georgia are not a team known from coming from behind, but come from behind is what they did. It starts off with a field goal, defense makes a stop, and then Ohio State, it's awful. There's a 70-plus yard touchdown throw to Arian Smith. There is a busted coverage. The guy who's meant to be covering him slips. The free safety down the field is all the way on the other side of the field. There's no way he's going to get home to it. They're taking him for a touchdown. They get a 2-point conversion, and just like that, it's 38-35 to Ohio State. Dumar Johnson, he's on the Georgia defensive line, then comes up with a massive sack on CJ Stroud, which keeps Ohio State to a field goal. They were 2nd and 5 in the red zone at the time, but he makes a big sack. Georgia settled for the field goal, but it's only 41-35. Just a 1-score game by this point. Georgia drive rapidly, and to Stetson Bennett's credit, he made some great throws on here. Ends up with A.D. Mitchell getting the touchdown, goes to 42-41 to Georgia, the first lead they had in forever. Ohio State, 50 seconds and 2 timeouts to get the winner. They drive down, partially courtesy to a big run by CJ Stroud. They give themselves a shot with a 50-yard field goal to win it all, but poor Noah Ruggles, the kicker, he shanks it so bad that it probably wouldn't have even made a second set of posts, and I don't know even if it had the distance to get through them if it did make it. Absolute heartbreak for him, bearing in mind he's been clutch for the rest of the game up to this point. He's one of the best kickers coming into this draft, but he shanks it. Georgia escape to the Nattie. Now, as much as we do want to give credit to Ohio State for turning up at, when people doubted them, not being able to hang. When you're 14 points up on this Georgia side, which is not known for its ability to come back, because that's not the way it plays, you've only yourself to blame when you lose. You had a lead in the first half, a double-digit lead. You had a double-digit lead in the second half. You got a field goal to win. At the end of the day, for all the good they did, they have no one to blame but themselves for this.
Nope. Super disappointed by Noah Ruggles. I don't trust him now. He missed 2 field goals. One of them wasn't even that far.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, 6 points left. Those 6 points, they changed that game. I said, I know Georgia missed 1, but he missed 2. And then, I said, Georgia usually start quick. This week, Ohio State started quicker. And they were able to regain lead as well. So, as much as I want to give credit to CJ Stroud, it's just not good enough. Like I say, Ryan Day is now 1-3 in the playoffs, I think.
Yeah.
So, for me, his future is very much in doubt. I'm pretty sure he's already come out and said that he won't call players next year. I think he's giving up the duties. So, I think. But it's hard. Like, the huge controversial play, like you say, I left the play thinking, total illegal hit. Absolutely crunching hit that ended Marvin Harrison's day. Like I say, it was more shoulder than head, but he's kind of defenceless. Like I say, it's at back post. It does shut down a game. But then it's same as the TCU game. You can't then turn over from the 1 yard line. I'm sorry, but you've got CJ Stroud. He's nearly 6'4". Just jump. Just QB sneak it. Like I say, you don't have to try the Q and try and pound it in with a backup or try throw the ball. Like CJ Stroud, like grow some nuts and risk injuring yourself and get the ball in. And that was, like I say, a huge turning point in the game. They can extend that lead and really make Georgia work for it. And then everything after that, kind of just playing catch up.
So
in the end, Ruggles, like I said, 50-yarder. A lot of QBs aren't used to college to making them. If you want to go pro, want to be drafted, when I say, especially because it was indoor, wasn't it? I say they're playing there, so the conditions are perfect. I say, I don't know how good or bad the hold was, but a horrible kick. But and then the play where the defensive back, like you say, he turns him, he just stumbles, gives like that 2 yards away. Safety is over on the other side. I think there was trips or twins on the other side. He's never getting across the field. He just blazes away for the score. So things went against them, but they also didn't help themselves, unfortunately. And in the end, Georgia, very fortunate to come away with a victory. But that's kind of why they're the best team. Like, to put them away is really hard. You've got to take your chances. If you leave that door open at any opportunity, they will take it. And despite the pick, we still see vintage Stetson Bennett. But Kenny McIntosh and Milton as well, running through the middle, they really took a bit of pressure on it. Georgia's not used to its running game. You don't get much love. But the backs were really important in this game because the tight ends were basically neutralised. The Ohio State defence, for the majority, did its job.
Yeah. No, I agree there. Grandizer, I can see your thing about saying growl loud at the top of your lungs. I'll do it at the end of the show. I just don't want to scare anyone who's listening to the audio podcast. So, like with Michigan, it feels like Ohio State are at a crossroads now. Obviously, you've got the wonderful receiving core for next year. Ibuka's still going to be there. Marv Harrison's still going to be there. But you're losing CJ Stroud. You're losing your left tackle in Paris Johnson, who's gone. So that's the 2 big parts of your offense in terms of the quarterback gone. You're losing other guys on there as well. Smith and Jigba. I don't know whether he's going back. I don't know what he's decided he's doing. But this is at a crossroads for them as well, doesn't it? Because, Michigan and Ohio State, only one of them can go back to the playoffs potentially next year. You've got to figure Bama, Clemson, LSU are back in it next year. I think they're at the same point as Michigan, aren't they? They've got to try and recover from this quickly, otherwise they could get lost in the shuffle again, especially when the Big Ten expands.
Yeah, I think Ohio State are in worse shape because questions about quarterback, who is the successor? We've seen guys like Jack Miller, like I said, they've gone on, like I said, ain't it? Like I say, receiving core, I expect Smith and Jigba now to declare. I don't see him returning, not with QB questions. Like I say Eichenberg, I'm pretty sure he'll declare.
Yeah.
Like I say he's a key part of that defense. So, yeah, offensive tackle, defensive line, number 9, that big defensive end. I can't remember. Like I say, he looked really impressive.
Yeah.
Zach something. He looked like a monster.
Zach Harrison. Zach Harrison.
He looked really good. So yeah, he could possibly go. And for me, Ryan Day now, he's under an incredible. His seat is so hot. Like I say, he's had 4 cracks. Let's say he's 1 and 3 in the games that matter, and in the end, they just keep falling short. And teams like the Buckeyes, they don't tolerate mediocrity. I won't be surprised if they struggle next season if he's fired. I really don't think that he can last much longer if they're having these post-season failures. But yeah, like I say, the Big Ten is getting better. Penn State come off a huge year, loaded class of freshmen that'll be better next year, really well coached. So yeah, it's going to be a minefield next year, the Big Ten.
And that's the trouble when you're playing in a conference that's weak. You've got to win your few big games. Trounced twice by Michigan now, and giving up a game they should have won. I think it's dangerous for Ohio State to go, oh, look how good we were in this game, let's keep him. No, he's lost another big game, regardless. Some of the play calling was questionable at the end eventually, and you've lost your quarterback now. You're only in that game because of your quarterback. So
there's a reason that both these teams lost, and only one of them is getting NFL interest.
Yeah.
Everyone's Harbaugh. No one wants Ryan Day.
No.
Ryan Day is never going to be an NFL head coach, and that's because the body of work and everything else does not precede him. It doesn't speak on his behalf.
No, it doesn't. My man Mike is in the building. Thank you for joining us, good sir. Hope you are well as always. Georgia, though, and I know you've been critical of the Georgia defense, and we've every right to be so, but we've talked about Michigan and Ohio State not ready to go over the hump yet, but the truly good sides find ways to win games. And Georgia are not known from digging themselves out of holes. They're not very behind very often. You saw, but against Alabama last year, they got in a hole. They couldn't get out of it. That's not the way they play. They answered the call in this one, specifically Stetson Bennett. It's well known. He's a walk-on. He's getting no NFL interest whatsoever, really, for the draft. He's in his second Nattie in a row now, and he's going to be the first guy potentially to go back-to-back in over a decade. You have to give huge props to this team and to Kirby Smart for finding ways to win when their defense, which is their bread and butter, doesn't work. They still found a way to win. They took the deep shots. They ran the ball well. It never looked like they panicked. Despite how far they got behind, they always looked calm, composed, did what they needed to. You've got to give a whole lot of credit to those guys, especially on the offense and the coach for this.
Yeah, teams that are used to hammer insides and that are used to playing from the front and starting quick, sometimes don't know what to do. I said 21-7 down. That's a big haul. But yeah, they were composed, they were calm, there were no penalties. Kirby Smart trusted his players, didn't change anything. Just he kept doing what they're doing, just waited for Ohio State to make mistakes, and they did. Because they were patient, didn't have to force the issue. They knew that when teams made issues, like say, turn the ball over, interceptions, things like that, that they punished them there and then. And Stetson Bennett has been there, he's done it, worn the t-shirt as well. I said, veteran. Every team in the country loves Stetson Bennett. Never panics, never in the face of pressure, and the guys around him trusts them. And Kirby Smart, not the dominant. The defense has been nowhere near as dominant as last year, but it's still been better than most, and the offense can still bail it out whenever it needs to be because there's just plenty of playmakers all over.
Exactly. So my last question on this is this the start? If Georgia go on and win this now, because you think they lost a historic amount of talent last season, especially on that defense, and yet they've recovered. Until this game, they've not given up this many points in a game. They've not really looked that unfazed. It seems that they're now at the stage of recruiting where they can just reload and go again like Bama do. If they win again, are we seeing the start of the dynasty this time? Are we seeing the start of a new dynasty? Because it feels like it to me. If they're starting to learn how to win games from behind, then there's nothing they can't do at this point.
Could very well be, yeah. Kirby Smart, seems like a guy that could be here for the long haul. Like, he could be the next Nick Saban. I can't see anyone really attracting him, poaching him. There'd be no reason for him to leave unless he does get a call up to the big time pros. But yeah, the team is very settled. It recruits very well in and out. They lose players to the portal, but that's because there's players that just can't get playing time because it's just so hard to win jobs there and there's so much depth of talent. If they can keep hitting on these 4 and 5 star QBs, because I'm pretty sure the next guy in the wing I think is like Brock Vandergriff. I think like he's like their backup, like a 4-star, but 5 stars behind him. As long as they keep hitting on one of them, they'll be just fine. If they ever have that QB drought, they'll be in trouble. But like I say, they get good running play as well. Like I say, whenever like a running back from another team wants to go to an SEC team, they go to say go Bama or Georgia, they can just turn anyone into stars because their system is just one of the most friendly football systems in the country, and it just anyone can learn. It's quick, it's aggressive. Yeah, as long as NIL keeps working and keeps helping, like I said, the SEC, they'll never fail because it's just they can get anyone they want, and their coaching never seems to let them down either.
No, just seems to be flawless, and that's what you need. You need great coaching, and you need great players who can come through for you when it matters. So, well done to Georgia and TCU for getting through the games. Commiserations to Michigan and Ohio State. You go again next season. So, it's decided, right? The last game of the season, as far as the FBS goes, the Nattie, the one that wins it all, the Bulldogs versus the Frogs. Bulldogs are favoured by 12.5 points. That's come down narrowly from when it first came out. It was 13.5. It's just inched in a bit, which I think is due respect to TCU there. But I mean, like you said, this is maybe the best potential outcome here because, and you've seen it this way, there seems to be a friendly rivalry between these two. They seem to have been getting on quite well this week, and you've got sort of a similar story here, especially when it comes to the quarterbacks. These are two quarterbacks who have been disrespected, written off, not considered to be that good. You know, I just can't help feel that Duggan should be Heisman winner at this point. You know, we said if they beat Michigan, Dykes should be head coach of the year. Duggan should be Heisman winner, and he should be by a thing. And obviously Stetson Bennett, no one talks about him in the draft, but he's going to his second Nattie, and no one speaks out there. So these two quarterbacks who are going to know how the other one feels, and they're going to have a lot to prove on the plate. So you're potentially going to see two revved up quarterbacks for this one. Like I say, just overlooked, but potential to win the big one.
Yeah, for the QBs anyway, this game is bigger than college. Like I said, this is about going pro. Like I said, I won't be surprised if Duggan got drafted higher than Bennett, and I don't think that'd be fair to either of them. I feel like Stetson, like I say, they always talk about his age, his size, all them things it's easy to use against, despite being, if he wins this game, one of the best QB in college for like the last 20, 22 years, probably since the millennium. He's just been one of the best. Like I say, he just does everything perfectly, commands an offense, rarely turns the ball over. He's got a bit of swagger, a bit of arrogance to him. And then Max Duggan, who started really slowly, like years 1, 2, and 3, 2 interceptions. Like I say, he could have games where he turned the ball over and cost them, but this year, then suddenly, Tony Dykes comes in from a rival, plays the cleanest football he's ever had. Up until the the interceptions, he'd only had like 2 on the year, playing the cleanest stuff in the country, leading an offense that was built to not dominate sides, but outlast them with endurance and mentality. And yeah, this game is big for both of them. Like I said, they both feel like they've got a lot to prove, and they both feel like, had the Heisman not been decided, both could have beat Caleb Williams. Like I said, both would have had a chance to win this award. It would have been between these two making the game had it not been decided already. So yeah, one wants to start a dynasty, and the other one wants to win something that the program will probably never win again.
No.
Like I said, this could be TCU's one chance to win a national championship.
Yeah, and they're coming into this game exactly how they want to be, and that is firm underdogs with no one considering that they can win it, and that seems to have been what they've been all year. People, doubted them at the start, then they doubted the unbeaten run, then they doubted them in the championship game. They lost, and everyone sort of jumped on them, but they still got into the playoffs. Everyone doubted them against Michigan. They proved wrong again, and now they're the ultimate underdog as it comes to it. In terms of the game itself, it feels like there's several key areas to this. I think the first one's going to be the trenches, isn't it? Because everyone said TCU would not be able to hand Michigan's trenches, which are really good, but they bodied them on both sides of the ball. I mean, the defensive line maybe not as much, but they bodied them on the offensive side of the ball and were able to get there. And that Michigan trench is good, but there's no bigger standard bearer than the Georgia trenches, are they? They only gave up one sack against Ohio State. Stetson Bennett played from as clean a pocket as you'll probably ever get in a college football semi-final. Can TCU one last surprise and be able to breach it and stop them running the ball on them?
I guess I'd probably say no. O'Shea Mathis, like I said, they brought him in, big prospect, like I say, from Nebraska. Can he? I don't think they can get to Stetson Bennett. I said, unless they dial up blitzes, they need their cornerbacks, their safeties, and the backers. Like I said, to probably do it. Pure defensive line, I think they'll struggle to penetrate. Like I said, I think Kenny McIntosh and that probably going to get some holes, and Bennett is probably going to have some good time work in the pocket. On the flip side, can they stop Jalen Carter wrecking that O-line? TCU's got a great centre. Their interior is fairly strong. On the outside, I'm not sure. I feel like Duggan is going to have to run for his life at times and keep players alive. Now, that's kind of where he comes into his element. He's not really afraid to bail, but for the sake of Quentin Johnston, who I think can destroy the Georgia secondary, he's not confident. I think Quentin Johnston will have his way with Ringo, Malachi Starks, and that. They're really going to struggle.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say now. Do you reckon that mismatch between receiver and secondary is going to be, if TCU are going to struggle to get to Bennett, then you've got to play very disciplined in the pass game. You've got to play very disciplined against the run and just try and limit the impact. But can the impact that Duggan and Johnston have on them be bigger than what Georgia could manage with them, I guess? And you've seen Georgia be torn apart now by a good quarterback and good receivers. Bear in mind, Johnson doesn't have the supporting cast, but he's a wrecking machine on his own. I mean, who does the bigger advantage lend itself to? TCU picking on that secondary, or Georgia potentially rushing it through the trenches, or keeping Bennett clean to throw it?
I'd probably lean with Georgia. Like I said, keeping Bennett upright, having the run game, not getting penetrated by the defense. Quentin Johnston, I think, can have his way, probably put up 100, 150 yards, but that will not win TCU the game. I don't think one player can beat Georgia. The supporting cast like Barber, they really need Kendre Miller healthy.
And Demicado.
All of them got to play their part. If one playing card falls, the castle tumbles, and it starts like that. Can Duggan get the ball out? If Duggan can't get time to get the ball in and find Johnson, the game will be over before it starts.
Yeah, and that's what they've been so good. The Holy Trinity sort of held one another up all season, and when one stumbled a little, someone else has taken on the mantle, as it were. So it's going to be tough. Now, the over-under for this, 62.5. Is this going to be a low-scoring affair, or is it going to be another shootout a la Georgia and Ohio State, do you reckon? What's your We'll do predictions now, because we've been on this for a while and we've got lots of other stuff to do. So, overall, what's the prediction for Georgia TCU? Do they hit the over? Is it going to be high scoring, low scoring, blowout, close? What do you think?
Fortunately, I'm going to have to go for a blowout. I don't think that TCU defense. This is a different animal it's coming up against. They've never faced someone like Brock Bowers. Let's say Adarian Smith. Let's say had a great game. Lad McConkey, who didn't do much because of the injured knee in the semi-final, will be better. He is sneaky good. I'm going to go 40-27 to Georgia. I think they hit the over, but I feel like TCU will probably fall like 2 scores short.
See, I was thinking very similar. I had 40-25 to Georgia. I think TCU will give them a game. I wouldn't actually be surprised if they went up on Georgia early on, but then I would sort of just expect Georgia's trenches to take over. I mean, Carter's got a point to prove now. If he has another dud, that could drop him out the top 5. You know, if Ringo has another dud, you know, I don't consider Ringo cornerback 1 anymore. I don't even think he was before, but I think he's fallen way out of that conversation now. So Georgia to win for me, but TCU are going to give it a fight. And whatever happens, TCU can be proud as hell as what they have done this season. I mean, if they win it, then I'll be absolutely delighted for them. But this is, as Ryan said, it's just a new level of competition they're coming up against here. Georgia is so far above everybody else, really, in the grand scheme of things. But best of luck. We'll be back next week to talk about what happens, and hopefully it is a barnstormer that does the Nattie proud. I believe it's taking place at SoFi, isn't it? So it should be a nice big crowd there, good atmosphere going.
Apparently not allowed to tailgate at SoFi. Everyone's really upset.
No, they're boring, aren't they? Just boo. But yeah, best of luck to TCU and Georgia this week. In Twitch, had a first-time chat from Ice Real Killer X saying, yo, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. A lot of chat going on. A lot of comments going on in the chat. Hopefully everyone is alright there. You got any questions you want to ask us as we're going along related to what we're talking about, please let us know. And if I've missed anything, just keep putting it in there, and when we get to a spot, I will get it in the show. So don't you worry about that. Right, we're going to move on now. So we talked about bowl season last week, right? The first half. The second half of bowl season has happened, and some really, really good fixtures considering what bowl season usually brings up for you here. But I'll just run through the teams who have won. So congratulations to Oregon, Duke, Arkansas, Texas Tech, Washington, Florida State, Minnesota, Tennessee, Pittsburgh, Notre Dame, Maryland, Ohio, Alabama, Iowa, Penn State, Tulane, LSU, and Mississippi State. Like last week, just going to go through a few of the teams first who've broken records or whatever, maybe have a quick discussion about them, talk about some of the players who've really impressed, and then maybe talk about a few of the games after that. So for Duke, big bowl win for them here. So they finished the season with 9 wins, have Duke. This is only the 3rd time they have achieved that since 1942. So 3 9-win seasons in 80 years, and one of them was this year. Testament to the job that Mike Elko has done. This was a team that hadn't made a bowl game in 3 years, and they had just 1 ACC win in the last 2 years. And to add icing on the cake, Duke's defense broke the Military Bowl record for sacks with 6. I mean, we talk about Coach of the Year candidates possibly here, right? But Mike Elko, what a wonderful job he's done at Duke. 3rd 9-win season in 80 years. Big bowl win, dominant bowl win. Great end to the season for them, and with Riley Leonard at the helm, their future's potentially very bright.
Yeah, he's raised the bar immensely. Next year is going to be interesting because now they've created something to live up to. I feel like next season is going to be 10 times harder because now they feel like they've got to have to try to live up to this and keep it going. But yeah, one of the best seasons in program history. They've had some dark years in the last few years. They've recycled through QBs that have just disappointed time after time. Guys like Chase Bryce and that, and they weren't small names. They got a lot of guys in the portal that had big reps but came in, couldn't back it up. Like I said, 1, because the time in the last few years the ACC has been really hard. 2, because Duke have lost a lot of their best players or didn't recruit very well. And 3, like I say, coaches have struggled to work with the players that they've had, so only a few of the guys have been there long term. So yeah, since Daniel Jones left, it's been really hard for them because they've just recycled after guys in the centre. Like I said, Riley Leonard's come in, and he's not lit up the numbers by any means, stretch the imagination, but he's been really good, and he's put them in many opportunities to win, and he's actually had some guys around him that a few of them are leaving this year, so like I said, they're going to have to do it again next year, find more spots, but really held their own in an ACC that is really in flux, and they've finally found their feet, and maybe they can move with the shift of balance of power and back it up next season. But yeah, I think they've got a lot to look forward to next year.
Put them in your category for dark horses for the ACC, at least for a conference title maybe, if they can keep things steady while the other teams around them are all in flux. Who knows? A few other records or whatever broken this week. Arkansas, the 108 points scored in their game against Kansas is the highest scoring game in Liberty Bowl history. That was a barnstormer. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. Texas Tech, they won their bowl game. That is their first 8-win season since 2013, so good on them, especially because they've had all sorts of QB troubles this season. Washington, Kalen DeBoer, 1 year there, came over from Fresno State, taken them from 4 wins to 10 wins in season 1, and with Penix coming back next year, he could already have them as legitimate Pac-12 contenders, maybe outside playoffs. What a turnaround in 1 season it's been for Kalen DeBoer and Washington.
Yeah, they've really put teams to the sword this year. Like I say, he's a good coach, came into a team that was really already experienced, just needed guiding. Like, he's not added that many players. Like I said, Michael Penix Jr., a good pickup, the former Indiana QB, the lefty, had a Heisman caliber year for the majority of it. Like I say, they're disappointed that they didn't take part in the Pac-12 title game. Like I said, they probably were the second or third best in the Pac-12. Will probably open as joint favourites next year with Utah. I'd like to think they're in that category, especially if Penix coming back. But yeah, lots of talent. Team's got a lot of talent. Like I say, guys like Olafosha and that, they've got to replace some talent. But I've already seen like on 3 that the Pac-12 already is leading in like guys that are leaving to the portal, but bringing them in. Colorado and Arizona State have already brought in like 29 players from the portal between them already. The Pac-12 right now, because it's so winnable and because teams are all like chaotic and messing around.
It's an arms race.
Yeah, they're getting lots of guys in the portal.
Yeah.
Like I say, NIL helps as well. Nice places to play, good teams to beat. So, yeah, Washington, let's see if they can bounce back next year, like I said. And Penix Jr. might be a dark horse to watch in the 2024 draft if he has another year like this. It's awkward left-hand QB. Everyone says no one likes them, but he makes it look good.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, like I say, it feels like an arms race in the Pac-12 now, the race to the top, because people know the top is vacated at the minute. There's no outstanding one who's dominating. So Pac-12 is going to be amazing to watch next year, I reckon. Other teams who broke records or noticeable, so Tennessee, they won their bowl game now. Ultimately, they will be disappointed that they didn't make the college football playoffs. However, this is their first 11-win season since 2001. So 21 years. Obviously, they're losing Jalen Hyatt, they're losing Hendon Hooker. There's a lot of rebuilding next season, but I believe their recruiting classes are pretty good at this moment in time. So hopefully they can build on that. Maryland knocking off NC State, dagger to the heart. Back-to-back bowl wins for the Terps for the first time since 2003. First 8-win season since 2010. So Maryland potentially heading to the top of the pack, chasing Ohio State and Michigan in the Big Ten. Iowa, oh dear God, we've got to talk about them briefly. So Iowa beat Kentucky 21-0. It is the first bowl shutout since 2019, and it is the first time a Big Ten team has shut someone out in a bowl since 1999. The defense of Iowa outscored the offense. Defense had 2 touchdowns. Offense had 1 touchdown. Shock horror. Iowa's offense failed to convert a single third down in the entire game. Kentucky, however, you want to know what their drive chart read? And I just need to get my fingers ready here. Punt, 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 pick 6, punt, punt, pick six, punt, 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 turnover on downs, punt, turnover on downs. The over-under for the game was 31, the lowest ever over-under given to a college football game ever in like 20,000 or something like that, and they still missed it by 11. I think it's just... I'm glad that I don't have to watch them again this year, right? It was absolutely atrocious.
I watched that game, I loved it. It was brilliant. Like that Iowa defense, like, there's some draft studs on that defense.
Oh, there's tons.
Campbell, like Castro, the safety, who I never heard of.
Riley Moss.
The guy hit the sledgehammer, yeah. The defense, yeah. If they had a good offense, they could win the Big Ten.
Oh, God, yeah.
Like I said, in Kentucky, they're a fucking mess. They are so screwed next year, Kentucky. I think they're going to be poor.
Yeah, and poor old Devin Leary's going there, which is going to hurt me even more. But I agree. You give the Purdue, or maybe even the Maryland offense to Iowa, the Big Ten champs, outright over Michigan and Ohio State. That's just how good that defense is, and it's got a crazy amount of talent coming through in the draft. You will hear us talk about a lot of Iowa players this draft. The other one I wanted to mention, Tulane, Ryan. What an absolutely sensational victory for them over USC, 46-45. So last year, Tulane went 2-10. We didn't really speak much about them when we went through the conferences. They've turned it round from 2-10 to 12-2, and that is the largest single season turnaround in the history of the FBS. No team has done a bigger turnaround than that, from 2 wins to 12 wins. And like I say, they did it digging themselves out of a huge hole against USC. Willie Fritz, Ryan, is another one who was completely undermined for Coach of the Year. The job he has done there to get them in the Group of 5, New York, oh God, what they call them, the New Year's Six. I want to say New York. He gets them into the New Year's Six bowl. The one G5 candidate in there. They beat USC, 2 wins to 12 wins. You can't say enough about what a great job he's done for them this season.
Oh yeah, he should have won head coach, hands down, for the year. I wouldn't even give it to Sonny Dykes, I'd give it to Willie Fritz after the bowl game. And it was just the drama as well at the last play of the game. And to be fair to them, they got absolutely destroyed by the best quarterback in the nation.
Yeah.
And they still found a way to win. Like I say, they weren't demoralised by another dominating performance. Like I say, Michael Pratt as well, their QB. Like I say, he's one of the older guys. He's been around the block a few times. Like, ends on a proper high as well. Like I say, he's a good guy, and like I say, he's been really good over the years. So yeah, I don't feel like this is a season they'll probably live up to for a long, long time. This is one of those years where you have them, you just can't live up to it again.
And the Americans going to go under. I mean, aren't they moving to the Big 12 now? Are they part of the group moving to the Big 12, or are they staying in the American?
Moving, yeah.
So big changes afoot for them.
I think that's good for them, though. I feel better talent. They need better shifting.
Yeah. And can we legitimately call Lincoln Riley a fraud now as well?
Yeah.
An utter fraud, because no matter where he goes, he takes his trash-ass defense with him, and he has some of the greatest offensive weapons you could ask for, and he still loses. He's in fraudulent territory now for as far as elite head coaches go, isn't he?
There's no excuse. USC should have won at 12 comfortably. Yeah. Caleb Williams immensely let down by calling, coaches, defense, everything. And they got that guy to decommit. That's it. They've had some high-profile decommits, and USC has got deeper pockets than anyone. And the guys even realising that maybe I don't want to play in such a fraudulent team.
No.
So yeah, it's worrying. Like I say, he has got the most to lose in the nation, Lincoln Riley, right now. If he cannot deliver with the talent he has been bestowed upon him.
Well, that's it. If you're an offensive player, then by all means go to his sides, because he'll draft your stock to the moon. But defensively, I mean, you talk about the D-line this year. Tuli Tuipolatu had a wonderful season by his standards. No one cares because he's buried amongst that trash defense that they carry every week, and it kind of hurts your stock as a player. He should be getting talked about as one of the top D linemen this year, and he's not. So yeah, Lincoln Riley, you're fraudulent. Ken Stauder says in the chat, Kentucky is a weird one. Never that great of a team, but always has standout talent. That is probably the perfect way to sum them up, isn't it? Really.
Probably, yeah. I say Chris Rodriguez.
He's drafted. He's got a draft. Will Levis is leaving.
Levis, even though it's impossible to trust him or know what he's going to do. Like Devin Leary, I just don't get what he's thinking. He must have watched that game and thought, like, Christ.
I'm going back to NC State.
The whole line in Kentucky's probably going to get him killed.
He'll just be like, I'm going to go back and own Florida State for another 2 years instead. It'd be easier than doing this stuff, so meh. Big Aries goes, one day Riley will find a DC and that might be a dangerous day. It will be, if he can find one. There's some good ones out there. He should go and check out some of the good defenses like Iowa and Troy and places like that and grab himself a dude and recruit for them. Then maybe he might be dangerous one day, but right now he is not dangerous. So those were some of the teams I had notes about. Were there any other sort of teams that you were surprised by, happy by, disappointed by out of this slate of bowl games that's just gone?
Well, Ole Miss, their year. He's in trouble. He's in a lot of trouble. I think this. He's so likeable and everyone wants him, but bang money, mediocre. I say Jackson Dart threw a handful of interceptions that cost him a game. I'm sorry, but you should be beating Texas Tech. You shouldn't be letting Tyler Shook absolutely dominate you through the air and on the ground. Give the ball. I say, and he's not that good. I don't think I've seen him. He's been at like 3 programs. I say Zach Evans was okay, declared for the draft. Judkins was average, but yeah, AJ Finley, star safety, declared for the draft, someone that I like, but yeah, like they've lost talent, even though they brought in all these big names. They're no closer to winning an ACC than before he arrived, and I can see next year another average 8-win season. And do Ole Miss want to be that? No, they want to be competing for SEC championships, not crap ball games.
I was about to say, what do you reckon the barometer is for him next year? At least challenge him for a conference title. Well, a division title, not conference one.
If he don't win his half the SEC, I reckon that he'll be poached by someone anywhere, or he'll be let go.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that one there. Ken Stauder goes, EMU won. Yeah, we gave a lot of love to Eastern Michigan last week. Terrific for them. They broke some hella big records with their bowl win. So, you know, we're a massive fan of Crichton and co. there. Right, players. Let's talk about some of the players who've really stood out here, because this has been a good second half of bowl season for me. For running backs, some have really done their name a world of good when it goes to the draft. None more so than one guy who's heading to the Senior Bowl and is going to get a lot of love in a few weeks, but Tyjae Spears, running back, Tulane, in a draft class which is so heavy on talent here. He showed out. 17 carries for 205 yards, 12.1 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns, and this is against the USC defense, which has a lot of highly rated guys on the defense. But he probably had one of the standout performances maybe of bowl season altogether. He's really putting himself up in this running back class for this coming draft, isn't he?
Yeah, finished the season on a real high, and it's almost like it's the worst year from the draft, because he's good, but everyone around him is also just really, really good. I feel like he's going to get buried, but you can't risk going back another year if he's got eligibility, because
injuries.
Yeah, like the timing for him is just all wrong, unfortunately. But he could be one of the steals, but he's probably going to go around, like say 4 or 5 now, whereas in other classes he might have gone in rounds 3 or 4. So yeah, the stars have not aligned timing wise or the class, but he's going to be one of the more underrated guys in it. Had a massive year and has proved that he can carry a pretty heavy workload.
You feel like he could almost slip into that Elijah Mitchell mold of guys, because Elijah Mitchell didn't go to like 170, 180 to San Fran, did he? And he fit straight in there. So you kind of feel running backs are going to drop this year, and the value is going to be massive. So if you're not going to bet on one early, then don't go in the middle. Wait, because the value will be there. But he wasn't the only running back who did well. Mohamed Ibrahim, I mean, I think we're both delighted for him this season personally after last year and what happened. He became the all-time leading rusher for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. 4,668 yards over 5 seasons. 3 of them were 1,000 plus yard seasons, and he basically missed the entirety of last year. So that's been done over 4 years. So he's just averaged over 1,000 yards per season. This season's been his best, nearly 1,700 rushing yards with 20 touchdowns. He has alleviated a lot of the fear, I think, about him and his injury history, and he's put himself right back in contention at the top end of this running back class.
Yeah, I think he's overcome the issues, like I say. The only thing that'll hold him back is his measurables. Like I say, 'cause he's listed like 6'1", 6'10". I think he's like 5'9", 5'10". I really think they're kind of full of shit and they're going to hurt him. He's small. He's stocky, but he's small. But yeah, that's the thing that let him down. But his testing is the only thing that he needs to pass now. He's passed the eye test. He's carried a horrible, horrible Minnesota team for years.
Yeah.
Callum Manakis, the QB that's taken over Tanner Morgan, stinks. Was useless in that game. But all the QBs were useless. So yeah. I wouldn't want to be PJ Fleck right now because most of the leaders on that team, everyone's leaving. But yeah, he's gone out in style and he really needed this.
Yeah, 100%. I'm so happy for him, especially we were gutted last year. He was running back 1 in the class last season before he got hurt, and he was out all year. It was such a severe one. You wonder whether he could come back from it. Well, he's even better. So, let alone alleviating fears about his health. He's never looked healthier in his life, so he will get, hopefully, picked up good somewhere. Another one I wanted to mention, you mentioned Penn State are going to be good next year, potentially, with their underclassmen and, the younger guys. And a big part of the reason behind that is going to be Nick Singleton. He was in my preseason watch list team, which I partially did on here, but I always mentioned him. 7 carries, 120 yards and 2 touchdowns against Utah. Was a huge reason that they won the Rose Bowl, and he looks like he's going to potentially be the best running back in the Big Ten next year, maybe behind Donovan Edwards, or at least on par with him. But Penn State have finished well, and if Drew Aller beds in well, Singleton is going to be massive for him, and like I said, they can maybe go for the Big Ten with Singleton on form.
Yeah, they're gonna. One of the more underrated impact freshmen of the year, like I say, Sean Clifford, ends as Penn State's best quarterback in history in like 5 or 6 major categories. Had a underrated career, but not groundbreaking. Like I say, never lit the world up. Drew Aller is the only question mark. 5-star kid, but I always say stars don't mean a thing once you actually leave high school. So if he's able to live up to the hype, yeah, they can win the Big Ten. Or they can at least win their half and beat Michigan in the and get to the title game, which would be pretty big because Penn State need that. Like I said, it's been a Michigan-Ohio State battle for a few years now. They kind of need to throw their name back in the ring. Like I said, they're losing. Like I said, Joey Porter Jr., guys like that. So they've got their job set out to replace some guys, but their youth's there as well. Like I say, I know they're good class, so the future's certainly bright there.
Oh yeah, 100%. A few others who caught the eye. Johnny Wilson, the wide receiver for Florida State. He had 8 catches for 202 yards against Oklahoma. Brian Branch, the Alabama safety. You're going to hear a lot of chat about him, specifically maybe Lions-based. 12 tackles, 4 tackles for a loss, a sack and an interception for Alabama against Kansas State. Aaron Beasley, the linebacker at Tennessee. 12 tackles, 4 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, 1 pass breakup for him as Tennessee annihilated Clemson, and it wasn't even close. And then the quarterback battle of all ones came in the Liberty Bowl. 108 points scored. Jalen Daniels for Kansas, I feel so sorry for him. 544 yards passing, 5 touchdowns thrown, a rushing touchdown, and he still lost. But he had a day himself. And then KJ Jefferson on the other side for Arkansas. 287 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, 130 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, so over 400 yards combined and 4 touchdowns on the day for him. That was one of the quarterback jewels of the second half of bowl season. Now, was there anyone else who stood out for you particularly, who you watched, who you were intrigued by?
I think Juice Vaughn did a good job against a good Bama defense. He looked really good. I think he is a guy that is a threat of getting lost in a good class as well, despite being super talented.
Yeah.
Because his size kind of dictates him into a kind of pigeonhole him into a role. Like, can he be a workhorse back? Can he take an NFL load? Is he big enough, strong enough? Like, he's good. He's an impact player. He's probably going to have to play special teams as well. Like, be a receiver, but he showed that he's got all the talent in the world. And then, I see it was like these bowl games, like like A.T. Perry as well. I think he's a really underrated receiver. He's one of the only receivers coming in that's like 6'5", skinny ass frame, but can put some meat on. But a real deep red zone threat, like you say, scores. So there's some really good stand-up performances.
Yeah, and I think they said that Juice Vaughn, he ripped off an 88-yard, was it a touchdown run? And it's the longest touchdown run that's ever been given up by a Nick Saban Alabama team, ever. He's got the record for that. They've never given up such a long touchdown run before, so tantamount to sort of the job that Juice Vaughn did. I was quite impressed with Kansas State on the whole. I just think they ran out of juice at the end, but certainly at the start of the game, they give as good as they got. They really slung it punch for punch with Alabama, but they were just a bit too good in the end, and Bryce Young was amazing.
Also, Nathan Taylor, the LSU tight end.
Yes.
Like him. Freshman, 6'5", had a good SEC championship, had a really another good, like I said, domination. I wasn't impressed by LSU beating up on a bad Purdue. Winning doesn't do anything for me. I don't care about running up the score, that's fine, but it was just a bad game. But he looks like a star, that kid.
Yeah, Purdue looked like they didn't care. They got the Big Ten conference, they got the Big Ten division win, and I think they've gone on holiday. So obviously they're going to be back with Hudson Card next year, and they will be a lot more aggressive than that, hopefully. It's funny you mentioned the big tight end there. I've had a quick question in from Ken on YouTube. He goes, if the tight end Zach Kuntz, 6'8" from Old Dominion, is available at pick 167, do you think he'd fit well in our tight end room here? I'm pretty sure you've mentioned him a few times before, but do you reckon he'd be a fit with the Lions?
If he's an inline blocker that can release and be good in the red zone, I think any tight end like that fits. Whereas the other more athletic guys that play in the slot probably wouldn't. So I'd say his build and how he's used Old Dominion fits the line scheme. Bigger, heavier, a primary blocker but with more upside. Like I said, I'd probably say anyone like that. Anyone over 6'6", 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", probably fits the Lions. I'd say someone like Brock Bowers, like I say next year, doesn't fit the Lions at all.
I agree. You need the Lions need very specific players, and that's what I've done in terms of my mock draft that we're going to do shortly. I've gone very specific, maybe not best player available possibly at the time, but guys who would fit us the way that we need them to, because we more than anything need really specific guys. So that is everything to do with bowl season, really. Well done to all the winners there, ending your seasons on a high, and for all but 2 teams, the season is done now, and the break till spring training awaits. And for all the draftees, soon NFL, the path to the draft will begin for them. But for now, they will get a well-deserved rest. So well done. Right, let's move it on to the crux of the show, Rye. The reason we're here for this one, the final end-of-season mock drafts. Like I say, if you've not gone through this with us before, what me and Ryan do because we sort of base this show on like the Lions and who we might draft for this, etc. Halfway through a season, we will do a mock draft, giving our thoughts on what's happened in the season so far, what the Lions' needs might be, what we've seen, etc. from there, and then we do another one at the end of season just to compare notes to see if our priorities have changed, if anything's different. And of course the Lions picks are vastly different to the last time we picked here, so it's going to be interesting. So let us crack on with these. Now, I don't know which sources you've used for yours, right? Just for me, I've sort of gone roughly where we are at the minute. So for me, we've got 2 round 1 picks. We're currently at 6 and 17. In round 2, we're at 49 and 61. In round 3, we're at 81. In round 5, we're at 145. And round 6, we're at 162 and 177. If yours differ to that, then it doesn't really matter. We're in the same ballpark. We've got 8 picks, basically, and we've got the rounds there for them. So I know this has been usually the easiest pick is your first round pick. You know who you're going for kind of in advance. For me, and I know for you, this has been an incredibly difficult process. I feel like 6 is such a rotten number for us to be at in terms of what we need and that. But let's crack on with this, right? The first round overall pick for the Detroit Lions, currently at number 6 or wherever you've got them, that high. Who did you finally settle on and why?
I didn't want to pick this player, but I feel like he's the only guy that really makes sense. And I've gone with Brian Brzee. I feel like interior defensive tackle at 6 is the only position I feel comfortable with. I feel better about edge right now. Like say 6'5" is like 300. Like say he's a behemoth that's got proper agility and athleticism. He's played this year and looked really good, and he's shaken off the torn ACL, which is good. Like I say, he looked good this year despite having that season-ending injury in 2021. I feel like he can offer something from inside out, getting pressure where we've struggled. Like I say, we're going to lose Brockers. Levi is a walking red flag. Like I say, we've got Bugs probably coming back, but I feel like if we're going to stick with a 4-man front, that I'm going to fix the interior because I feel better about the exterior. 6 and 9. I know I picked CJ Stroud in a half mock, but I hadn't bothered with a QB at all high this year. I feel like that just doesn't really sit right anymore.
No. Well, let's just say to everyone who's listening, me and Ryan do these completely independent of one another, so I don't know what he's put. He only knows what I've put if he's read the prep doc, because I put my stuff in there, but I've had exactly the same thought as you in terms of 6. I think it's going to be the defensive line there. That's the only one, again, I feel comfortable with. There's guys I want, but I can't stretch all the way to 6 for them. I'm like you. I've gone to Clemson. I've just gone with a different guy. I've gone with Miles Murphy. You've gone with Brzee. I've gone with Murphy. So he's 6'4", 245 pounds, 35 games in 3 seasons, so a model of consistent health. 61 solo tackles, 55 assisted, 36 tackles for loss, 18.5 sacks, 5 passes defended, 6 forced fumbles. Now, what's so exciting about this guy? He is just like a rare blend of your athletic tools and traits that you want from him. He's been consistent with his production year on year. The development has been there. You have the versatility across the line. Like Ryan mentioned it with Brzee, but kind of all these guys on the Clemson defensive line, they move around a bit. They give different looks. They're all quite versatile in how they play. He can play in just about any front that you want him to, and he will win according to the situation, whether it's on the edge, whether it's a bit more on the interior. He really is just sort of this athletically freakish guy that we really need on our defensive line. And outside of that, he's a model player, a model person. He's, you want the attitude there. Work hard, but there's no other issues off the field. He is expected to take time to develop fully, which is understandable. When you've got the rare traits, people will sort of last a little longer with you. But right now, where our edge room is, it kind of doesn't really matter. You can keep Romeo if you want for another year while you get this guy trained up. You've got a lot of depth at edge. You can get his snaps. He can be in the rotation. You can work his way in, and over time, you're going to have another fierce, versatile weapon on your defensive line to make up for the loss of Levi if he doesn't come back. Who knows what's going on with him? And I noted it was very interesting, right? The Draft Network's comp for him is actually Ziggy Ansah, which I kind of see a lot of in him. And if he works out like Ziggy did for us, at least early Ziggy, that would be really good for the line. So we've both gone defensive lineman from Clemson. Ryan's gone Breesy. I've gone Miles Murphy. Where did you go at 17, your second first round pick?
I've gone with a guy that's fallen. I've already mentioned him. I've gone with Ringo, the cornerback from Georgia. I think before mid-season, we probably would have been talking like a top 10 pick. Not anymore. Like I say, he's like 6'1", like 200. Good build. But like I say, LSU, this game here, you saw those tendencies where he gives two big cushions. Like I say, the hips are good, but gets people behind him. Bit arrogant. He's a bit brash. He feels like he's able to overcome things, when guys get behind him, he feels like he's got the talent to recover, like that he's kind of impenetrable. And that's because right now, I'd say he's very young, naive, a bit raw. I'd say with a lot of corners in draft, including him, probably going to have a bad rookie year. But I think his ceiling is one of the highest. I feel like he's got the talent. He's super physical, aggressive. I feel like he can play a man defense. I'd put him in man because that's where I trust him. I don't want him to give him the comfort and ease of having a nice zone or a cushion. I'm going to give him more of him. I feel like the floor isn't as high the early years. That's why I'm taking him this low down, whereas probably would have been talking about taking him a lot sooner. I still see him getting mocked there to us at 6. It's a bit rich for me right now, but I feel like he's got the pedigree. I feel like he's got the strength, the build as well to possibly be a dominant corner at next level in the NFL. And I feel like we've still got to address this issue early. Will going, Amani going, Mike Hughes might be going. If he might not get moved back, very glaring hole that I can't see Khalil, even in a bad rookie year, being any worse than Will Harris or Amani. I just feel like that, for me, is a risk I'm willing to take right now. I'm going to gamble on him maturing.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you. We both went D-line on first picks. I've gone corner as well. I think it's a big issue for us. Yeah, I've stayed pat with mine. I've not changed my corner. Devon Witherspoon, number 17, cornerback, Illinois. He's 5'11", 180 pounds. I've said this a long time. I'll not bore you with it because I know Ryan's heard it a million times. But for me, best man coverage corner in this draft. He's aggressive. He's physical with receivers. The tackling is on point. He's got a natural nose for finding the ball. It's kind of one of the traits of these Illinois DBs. We've seen it with Kirby Joseph this year. They know where the ball is. He can locate it in the air. He can locate runners to come up and provide support against the run. He's developed a reputation as a big hitter, and it's completely and utterly justified. The only potential problem here for them is the size and what a team will do with him at that size. It will be very easy at 5'11 and 180 to shove him into the slot and have him work there, because you would worry about what he would be like against more physical, well-built perimeter receivers. But for the team who is brave, who believes in him and keeps him out there, I think they're absolutely going to be rewarded with a terrific corner over time. He thrives in heavy man schemes, exactly like the Detroit Lions do. That if you want to be a corner here, you're going to have to work in man a lot. This is his bread and butter. He's very physical. I don't worry about the mismatch with bigger receivers. He also carries over a lot of special teams experience as well. That helps boost the draft stock. But I truly believe in my heart of heart that this is the guy. I really think he will be a great fit here. So I've gone Witherspoon. Ryan has gone Ringo. Right, let us move it on. So the next pick, we have to wait a little while till pick 49 roughly at this moment in time. Do we? Yes, we got 2 second-round picks. So, pick 49, the third guy I'm going to go for. I'm staying on defense. This is another guy I've mentioned a lot in regards to the secondary. Taking him from Boise State, it's JL Skinner, the safety. 6'4", 218 pounds. He's played 38 games in 4 years. 208 total tackles, 9.5 tackles for loss, 7 interceptions, 12 passes defended, 2 forced fumbles, and 3 fumble recoveries. This guy is the enforcer. He is big, he is physical, he hits like a mobile dump truck. He's got experience playing at both free and strong safety alignments, so you've got the versatility back there. The intelligence to read backfield alignments, adjust his own position on the field. So he's got burst to come up and help against the run if he sees it's a developing run play. But he can also deal with ball carriers, receivers coming at him as well. And the size, 6'4", 218 pounds, it gives you a big weapon to fight against opposition tight ends, bring him up, get physical with them, try and take the tight end out the game. That's something the Lions have traditionally struggled with a lot over time. And just to mention it again, just go and look at this guy's highlight reel. He hits, you stay down. It's incredible the way he does it. So I'm staying defense. I'm taking JL Skinner with me. Who are you taking with your first second-round pick, Ryan?
I'm going over to offense, and I'm going to take Jahmyr Gibbs, running back from Alabama. I know a lot of people aren't keen on this, but I'm considering letting Jamal Williams walk, because I know he offers a lot in the red zone, but I feel like I want a threat that's got a broader spectrum to his game, and I think Gibbs offers that. About 5'11", 200 pounds. Like I say, the transfer from Georgia Tech, who was their offense, great dual threat quarterback, rushes as well as he runs. Like I say, he's come in this year straight into an Alabama team trying to win national title. And if I had to sum him up, I'd say there's nothing you can't do. I've seen no issues with him. Like I say, he's made the transition to a top team. He's come in, got like 900 yards receiving, goes like 4.5 yards a carry, still got like 450 yards receiving, touchdowns on both sides of the ball. He can come out the field as a backfield passer. He can take the ball in an I formation or in a split back formation. He can run through holes. He can run through contact. He's good size. He's strong. He's one of the most well-rounded backs in this draft. He's made the transition well to a pro-style offense. And I just feel like it gives me the versatility where I don't have to switch the backs out all the time. I feel like he's got the home run potential, I feel like, that Williams right now I just have not seen from. Williams is good as what he's good at. He's physical, he's downhill, gets the short yardage, but doesn't offer me the explosiveness or the receiving talent that Gibbs does. In Gibbs and Swift, I feel like that's a kind of scary combination. Two guys that can kind of do everything, and you can put them out there and trust them as receivers. So yeah, I'm going to go for an upgrade on offense and not pay a running back.
I'd be fully on board with that. I love Jahmyr Gibbs. That'd be a great pick there. So that's your first second-round pick. Where is the second one going? Roughly around pick 61 at this moment in time, the Lions are.
I'm going to take a guard. I'm going Osiris Torrance from Florida. I feel like he's the 1A, 1B best interior offensive lineman at guard. Like I say, he's about 6'5", like 340. He's not the biggest or the tallest, but I'm fine with that, because I thought about Jackson Kirkland, where he's like nearly 6'8", and he's not that agile. Like I say, Torrance is better as a run blocker. He can get out to the next level. I trust him as a lead blocker. He's good in run games. You can pull him as a guard as well, whereas Kirkland would have been more as a pass pro, big, heavy tree trunk legs, better anchor. But I think Torrance is a better athlete all around. We do need a right guard, because for everything I like about Stenberg and Brown, I feel like we keep taking them in and out, stunting their growth, and I do want a long-term success of the tie. So it doesn't have to start next year. Like I say, we've got multiple guys there that can have a year, but I feel like he could be the missing piece to potentially a young offensive line. And as bad as Florida were, like, he was not part of their issues. Like I say, he is a highly thought of offensive line prospect. So I feel like I'm just going to finally get the last piece of the puzzle, hopefully, on the line.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the hardest positions, isn't it? Do you roll with the right guard? Do you not roll with the right guard? Who knows at this moment in time? So that's your second round pick. So back to me for my second round pick. I stayed on defense. First four are all going to be defense. I've not picked him before. I'm going to pick him. Jack Campbell, the linebacker from Iowa. I've done it. I've gone with it. And I've thought long and hard about it, but there is a good reason why. So, 6'5", 243 pounds, 139 solo tackles, 160 assisted. That's basically 300 tackles in his college career. The dude is a tackling machine. 12 and a half tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 5 interceptions, one of which was a pick six, 10 passes defended, 3 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries. Now, why have I gone with Jack Campbell at linebacker? Because of the leadership that he brings to your team. I've sort of bemoaned the fact that the Lions don't have a lot of leadership on this team, and somewhere along the way we have to start grooming the leaders of the future on this team, as well as being really good players. He is a defensive MVP for this Iowa side. They made him a permanent team captain. This is on a defense that churns out NFL level talent, so to make it as a captain, you've got to have elite leadership skills. This is not somewhere where you can just go, play well, and get a captain's job. It's a real badge of honour there with them. And that is the biggest part of the game there for me. And he's good in all facets of the game. You see with the stats, he's more of a coverage guy than he is a pass rusher. He's got bits in there. The pass rushing arsenal ain't great, but that's not really what I want. Not when I've got Derek Barnes, not when I've got even Rodrigo, who's been doing bits in there. I want a guy who can sit in there and lead the defense from the front. He's got a throwback frame, 6'5", 243. That's really big frame. Linebackers have generally been getting smaller, but what that gives you is a battering ram at the second level of your defense to help deal with the run game, and it's something Iowa specialise in, running the ball, stopping the ball being ran on them. I just think this is someone we lack in our linebacker room, and for me, he's one of the outstanding guys out there and gives us something we don't have. And like I say, over time, I think you can groom him to be a real leader on this team going forward for this young defence. So Jack Campbell is my second guy in the second round, and then we move it on. We are at, when I get back to where we are, we're into round 3 now. The pick at the minute is roughly around where pick 81 is. And I am finally going to turn to offense after 4 defensive picks. And this is a guy, again, I've mentioned a lot before. He's a lot higher on this draft than he was on the last one because of the season he's had. I'm going running back. I'm going to Pittsburgh, and I'm taking Israel Abanikanda because the more I watch him, the more I fall in love. His season, 239 carries, 1,431 yards and 20 touchdowns at an average of 6 yards per carry. He was the leading rusher in the ACC by some distance. It is a tough division to run the football. 12 receptions for 146 yards and a touchdown, so there is a little bit of receiving ability to work with, although it needs a lot of refinement going forward. But as for the player himself, elite explosive capacity mixed with above average long speed. When this guy hits a hole, finds a gap, he is gone. You are not getting him back again. The knock on him coming into this season was the ability to work through the crowds, to work through contact in the middle of those big scrimmages. But watch the tape this season. He has shown significant improvement in that discipline as he's gone along. There is a nasty stiff arm he has to do away with defenders trying to tackle him low. You've got the vision and the awareness skills to change his routes mid-play. Some guys kind of lose their lane and just run into it. He has got great vision and awareness skills to get out of that. There are technical issues to deal with. The blocking needs a little bit of work. His pad level at the line of scrimmage, that's why he struggled a little bit. His pads have sometimes been a bit too upright and guys have got under him and stopped his momentum. And the full field vision when it comes to running outside of the tackles could also do with a little bit of help. But overall, this is a guy who has big play ability for this for the team who drafts him in April. And for me, Swift's probably still here next year the way he's playing. He's our versatile guy in there. I want a missile that I can put who's going to go through and take these big runs. And he's got the dense frame to be able to do it. 5'11", 215. it's hard to bring him down. And I say, when he gets going, you can't catch him. I just absolutely love what this guy's done this season. So Israel Abanikanda is my running back. I'm taking him round 3. Ryan, round 3, where is that taking you?
I've gone with a guy that I actually didn't like at all in 2021, but has had a really good comeback year. I've gone with you. I've gone with a big coverage inside linebacker. I've gone with DeMarvion Overshawn from Texas, who, by all accounts, struggled in 2021. Down year, bad defense, but I feel like had a good 2022 comeback. He's nearly 6'4". He's nearly 235 pounds. He's a coverage guy. He said had about 90 tackles on the year, but he did have a few interceptions as well this season. He has the ability to be aggressive and come down hard at line of scrimmage, can make tackles and get involved in the run game, but lacks consistency wrapping up. Like I say, sometimes does want to lay the boom. Like I say, sometimes does want to drop his shoulder, will miss the odd tackle, but excels in the fact he can show blitz, come up, and then drop back into coverage. He's the kind of guy I think that can hopefully go against bigger slot guys and tight ends. Offers a long, rangy frame as well. Like I say, he's built a lot like Campbell. Like I say, but I feel like he's going to offer something, the successor to Alexander Lone. Alexander Lone is also like 6'3" and like 240 pounds. They're built very similar and play a similar style of game. And he's a leader as well. He's been really crucial to a Texas team that has been, to be polite, up and down the last few years. They've never been known for their defense. When they've played good, he's been at the heart of it. And when they've played bad, he's had to hold his hands up and probably say that he should have done better. But I feel like I'm willing to take a gamble on him. I feel like the third round is probably a reach, but we no longer have a fourth. And I feel like this inside linebacker class, there's a lot of higgledy-piggledy mixed up guys. I thought about, like, say, the Abate guy, the Washington State.
Yeah.
Some of them, I thought it's hard, but I'm going to go with a kid that I want to prove me wrong. I feel like he's got a lot of talent, a lot to work with, a big frame as well. I think he could do with some good coaching. But yeah, we need someone that can neutralise a passing threat on this defence, because our coverage linebackers right now, they're not up to scratch, I don't think.
Yeah, that's the trouble with this draft. You've got big gaps in this draft, so sometimes you're kind of having to reach for your guy. But I've no doubt Holmes will wheel and deal if he wants to get some more picks. But I was just sort of saying with Israel, I might not take him that high usually, but I had to bring him up a little bit there. Just a few comments. Ken Stouder goes, I think it's smart to bring in a rookie running back every year. Room can be made. Yes, it can. Ken Stouder also goes, is Zach Zinter a right guard or a left guard? He is a right guard. So we've got all the PFF stats for these guys here. He's got 917 snaps at right guard this season, and he's got 1 snap at left tackle. So I don't know what happened there, but he's got 917 snaps at right guard and 1 at left tackle. So, I mean, quiz question, where did he play left tackle? Any Michigan fans, do you know off the top of your head, and why would he do that? Grandizer goes, Drew Sanders, inside linebacker, Arkansas. I love Drew Sanders. He's had a wonderful... I love that Arkansas team because I'm a KJ Jefferson stan.
I feel like he'll be an edge, though.
Yeah, he's an edge.
Inside.
Yeah, Drew Sanders ain't an inside linebacker. He's an outside linebacker. He came over from Bama. I guarantee he's been playing outside linebacker all season. And I know because I've watched KJ Jefferson all season on that Arkansas team. But he's damn good. If we got him, I would not complain at all. He goes also... Grant goes, Hank wants to go for his walk. No, Hank just likes to, he's just very boisterous, isn't he? Bless him. Right, where were we at? We did the round 3 ones right. So we were at pick 81, going all the way to round 5 to pick 145, roughly around that area. You finished 3, so if you start us off with round 5, Ryan, where have you gone as we get into day 3?
This is I'm going to throw out just some wild cards here. I could regret this. I've gone with Brenton Cox Jr., the outside linebacker edge from the University of Florida. Now, this is a guy I feel like someone should take a swing at. Dismissed this halfway through this season. I like his rookie season, committed to Georgia, also dismissed from that product. Like I say, this year was part of like an acclimation, a build-up of things. Think like politeness. turning up on time to meetings, things like that, general tardiness. From what I could find, it wasn't anything serious. Like I say, he played in 8 games, had a handful of tackles, like 2.5 sacks. He's like 6'5". He's like 240, 250. Like I said, outside linebacker. He's got an arsenal of pass rush moves. In 2021, he had like 8-9 sacks. He showed real flashes. There's red flags. There's issues with character. But I feel like Dan Campbell is not someone to hold that against the guy. This guy kind of could be like your James Houston, your project. You keep on a practice squad, and then you unleash at some point in the year. He's got the guy, he can beat around the outside. I say he's got pass rush moves, he's got speed, he can bull rush, he's nasty. I say he'll drop back into coverage, he'll do the dirty work. I say he's had up and down collegiate play, but he was a good recruit. He's been at big programs. Lack of discipline has let him round, but I feel like when you get to day 3, you're kind of just throwing out bait and seeing who gets a nibble. I say everyone now is a gamble, and I feel like he's still got good scout reports. Obviously, dismissal hurts his stock, but I feel like he's got something to offer. Definitely in special teams as well, and I feel like he's one of those kind of reclamation projects that Detroit likes. We brought in like cast-offs and guys that kind of written off, so I'm not kind of ready to give up on him just yet. A lot of people still think he will be drafted. The NFL loves a bad boy. If this kid ends up in Dallas, he'll probably be a future star, or Pittsburgh, because they like defenders that I've got a chip on the shoulder, kind of like that. But yeah, I've liked what I've seen from him in the past, and I feel like probably will get a combine invite, probably will work out well. But like I said, there will be those questions and the tests, so let's see how he handles himself in those kind of scenarios. But yeah, I feel like I'm going to go double dip now at linebacker.
You know, actually, weirdly enough, I have as well. Not just quite yet, but we seem to be thinking quite along similar lines here. So, round 5, I have gone offense again, and this is a guy who you are going to hear me talk about a hell of a lot coming into draft season. I mean, now when you're looking at day 3 of the draft, you're looking for scheme fits, guys who are naturally going to have a better chance to try and succeed here. I think this guy is way underrated, and if we get him here, I would be absolutely delighted. I'm going wide receiver, I'm going to BYU, and I'm going for Puka Nacua. And I honestly do not think there is potentially a better scheme fit in the entire draft like Nacua coming to Detroit. I sent the same comment to Jim Nattie, the Senior Bowl guy, earlier, because he's going there. He liked that and he agreed with me, so you know, that's kind of getting some backing here. But Nacua himself, he's 6'1", 210 pounds, 107 receptions, 1,749 yards, average of 16.3 yards per catch, 14 touchdowns, also 39 carries for 357 yards, all whilst he's been at BYU, with a further 5 touchdowns. This guy has all the tools required to be a really good outside receiver at the NFL level. Now, this pick is made on the proviso we keep DJ Chark for another year, at least, as our main outside guy, whilst we develop this guy. But you watch Nacua play, you will love him quick. He is physical. He comes from a run-heavy system at BYU. It places great emphasis on blocking and getting your hands dirty, which is one of the biggest things you need to be a receiver in Detroit. But it ain't all just about running the game. He's had a good quarterback with him in Jaron Hall this year, and they've been passing it more, and he's had success. Like I said, he is big-bodied, he is fiercely aggressive, he is not afraid to take contact, to go through contact, to get the ball. He threatens at multiple levels of the field. He does the cut inside to go over the middle of the field, as well as attacking the perimeter. But even more than that, BYU have manufactured touches for him this year, with the jet sweep in particular. You use him in the backfield. Like I say, he's got 9.2 yards per carry on average on his rushes this year. He's had 39 of them, so it works. You can use him on the outside, you can bring him in, you can use him in the backfield. He's like a little Swiss Army knife, but he is the outside version of Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I will die on this hill eventually. He's going to take development time, which is why I'm keeping Chark. whilst I develop him. The route tree needs a lot of work. The route tree needs a lot of work. But he's honestly, he is the outside version of Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I will die on this hill eventually. He's going to take development time, which is why I'm keeping Chark whilst I develop him. The route tree needs a lot of work. because, again, he attacks the perimeter or you get the slants inside. Out of that, it's sketchy, but he's really good at what he does, so it just takes time to develop that tree. And like I say, against press coverage, he is a little sketchy. They played against Notre Dame, I think it was this year, who pressed him all game and he only got one catch. So the work against press coverage needs fine-tuning, but when you're at this point in the draft, there are guys who are going to have issues to develop, which are going to take time. But over time, this is a development guy who will be your starting outside X receiver, and you won't be paying him $10 million a year to do so. If you've got Nasua, Amon-Ra, and J-Mo in this team, that's 3 aggressive, nasty receivers who are also great when the ball is in the air. Honestly, cannot push this guy enough this year. I hope to God, I think the Lions will love him when they get their hands on him, when they see him. He's going to the Senior Bowl, probably going to go in the Combine as well. So, yeah, Puka Nacua is my guy there in the 5th. I had him. Right, we're down to our last 2 picks, so I'll start with the round 6 picks. We're at roughly pick 162 now. This is where I've really dug down into some tape to find this guy, but after the success of James Houston last year, I know the Lions are not afraid to go to the HBCUs and find talent, because there are guys there who are very skilled, and the lack of opposition they come up against should not be a deterrent for drafting them, as we've seen with what Houston's done. And there just so happens to be a guy at Florida A&M this year. That was a school I really loved last season, had some of my favourite guys there. He's going to the Senior Bowl as well. I found out about this, I didn't even know he was going to the Senior Bowl initially, but I'm so excited by the potential of this guy. I'm talking about Isaiah Land. He is an outside linebacker. He's an edge at the minute. The frame is probably going to mean a move to linebacker or some form of outside linebackery hybrid role. But take away all the stuff you see on the surface, there's a lot of work that needs to be done with him. But when you see the nitty-gritty of his game, you cannot help but be highly impressed. He is 6'4", 225 pounds. So maybe you would say a little light for an edge guy is where he is at the minute. He's known as the sack master. 94 pressures over the last 2 seasons, including 27 sacks, 10 quarterback hits, 57 pressures. He's got 5 battered passes and a pass breakup, 48 tackles, 58 run stops, 4 forced fumbles. He is long, he is lean, he is a pass rushing specialist with excellent athleticism at the position. As a rusher, the first step quickness off the snap is how he wins. He is a speed rusher, and he wins with speed. He ain't ever going to bull rush you to death. He just gets off the line, uses his hands well, and gets past you before you've even started making your move. Once he wins on the edge, the bend ability he has is something crazy. He can bend like Houston's been doing recently. He gets low, he gets fast, he gets down to the quarterback low, wraps up and tackles, and it is honestly something really good to watch. He's got an outstanding motor. You watch the highlight tape, you will see so many examples of him hitting quarterbacks from behind, running backs from behind. He doesn't give up on the plays, he chases down. He's got the speed to be able to do so, and he never stops running. I mean, it's just a lot to love about him here. But like I say, when you're picking this late in the draft, when you're picking from the HBCUs, there is work to be done. He's got a penalty issue he needs addressing. He's had 10 in the last 2 seasons, so he just needs to tone down a little bit on some of the penalty issues. Like I said, he currently plays edge, but with his frame, is he going to be able to do it at the NFL level? Probably going to move to outside linebacker, but it doesn't matter. He's still going to be a threat in the pass rush game. The arsenal is not great, and I know that I've knocked that over the years as a case of if the more pass rush moves you got, the better. But what he does is really good, and plus you're taking him in the 6th round of a draft, so I'm not looking necessarily for the pass rushing arsenal. I'm looking if you're really good at something and you're able to capitalise on it, and he can. And of course, you can be trained, and when you've got so many great edges already, including Houston at Detroit, he's got no better room to be able to learn out of from here. And I say, beyond this, the frame, the penalty issues, those little bits, you've got a player who has a very high ceiling. If you develop him right, you will get a high-level rotational guy who you can bring in on pass-down snaps, not only to get after quarterbacks, but also to deal with running backs as well. And like I say, the emergence, we will be looking at a HBCU circuit. Brad Holmes is an alum of one of them, and he will be looking through, and I think this guy will catch their attention. He's got the raw materials, and we've shown that we can develop these guys, so I'm so looking forward to seeing him at the Senior Bowl, and I hope the Lions take a look. But yeah, Isaiah Land, edge, Florida A&M, he is my guy in the 6th. Ryan, where are we going with the first sixth pick?
I'm going to finally look to find a backup QB. I'm going to try work out this guy. I'm going to go Clayton Tune, Houston. Like I say, he's high-profile name. Like I say, like 11,000 career yards, second now in all-time in AC play behind Alton Ailers. Had 40 touchdowns this year. Phenomenal year. Under 20 interceptions. Like I say, was one of the leading passers in the nation. Led a inconsistent Cougars team, but for nearly 4 years had big numbers basically every year. He's the kind of guy you would put 3,000-4,000 yards up every year, and you'd like at least a 1 to 2 touchdown interception ratio. Moderate build, 6'3". Like I say, that's what I'll be listed at. Very safe, like I say. He does everything better than average. He doesn't excel at anything. He's got a good arm, can make all the throws, good velocity, but he hasn't got a cannon by any means. He's sneaky elusive when he gets out of the pocket, can be a good runner, but you don't design plays for him. He does sometimes panic, bail on plays a little bit. He will leave the pocket sometimes quicker than he has to, but when he steps up, he can deliver a strike. Has led one of the more potent offenses in the nation. There's no reason he can't be Brock Purdy. Like I say, he's not going to be a starter, but he can be in relief. There's no reason he can't be a backup QB. That's why I'm taking this late. He's got tools to work with. He's one of the more older guys. Like I say, I think he's 24, who will be, so he's more experienced. Has led a fairly pass-heavy offense most of his career, touching on air raid. So you're looking at the Bailey Zappi kind of territory. So, but I feel like there's stuff to work with. He can learn. He's got no real fundamental flaws that need mechanics, don't need starting from scratch. Very safe. He'll probably be a guy that's got bounces around practice squads, but could latch on as a QB2 or a QB3. So there's no reason he can't have a better career projection than Nate Sudfeld. I say he's kind of going to be that kind of guy, and I'm banking on the upside of got a decent arm, can do it when called upon, and just a long time good option that's been like a household name around college for a few years. So he's worth throwing out. Could even just wait till he goes undrafted. Good chance he will, but then you can test him with him. But yeah, I feel right now this team has got no real inkling to improve on backup. There's not even a QB on the practice squad list. Since Blower gone, we're down to 2 QBs, so we need a little more competition.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. Okay, and then finishes off for our second round 6 pick, roughly around 177 currently. Who are you ending your draft with?
I've actually gone to HBCU as well. I look at their players, and this is the only receiver I'm taking. He's called Judakis Bonds from the Hampton Pirates. Ex-receiver, 6'4", 205 pounds, 4-year starter. Strong outside, big frame, catch radius. Relies on his big body, not always separation. Things like that needs to work on. But for the last 3 years, he's averaged nearly double-digit touchdowns every year. Large focal point of the offense. I think he'll probably go to their bowl game. I know they have the HBCU highlights game. Like I said, I expect him to be there. One of the more profile guys, can stretch the field, can block as well. Like I say, he's got a big frame. He's strong. Won't do the dirty work. A leader in a good offense and a strong core. And I feel like a lot of tools to work with. A young kid that's a long-term project. But like I say, if we're keeping Chark around guys like that, Reynolds, he's got guys to work and learn from. and I feel like he'll be a long-term option that you can call upon, activate on a roster. So give a guy a chance. I'd feel like hopefully on a pro day or a workout, he can do really well there.
Excellent. That is Ryan's draft, and then me ending ours. I had this guy last time. I'm going to go there again. I'm going to go special teams, and I'm going to draft Jake Moody from Michigan. I still think we need a kicker. I ain't 100% sold on Badgley, and I'm going to sort that out good and proper. I was sort of a bit iffy about Moody, but I saw the game the other day. The 59-yarder was clutch. He was clutch throughout the game. I think he would be a wonderful addition to this Detroit side. I can't really add more to that. He's missed a few this year, but overall, he's won is it the Lou Groza that's the kicker award? Is it Lou Groza? Yeah, he's won the Lou Groza last year. Probably going to be, I think he was, done for it this year. I think he was in for it, but he didn't quite get it. But yeah, I'm going to end up with him. So just to recap there, I'll do mine, then Ryan can do his. My mock draft, in no particular order: Miles Murphy, the edge from Clemson; Devon Witherspoon, cornerback from Illinois; J.L. Skinner, the safety from Boise State; Jack Campbell, the linebacker from Iowa; Israel Abanikanda, the running back from Pittsburgh; Puka Nacua, the wide receiver from BYU; Isaiah Land, the outside linebacker from Florida A&M; and then Jake Moody, the kicker from Michigan. Ryan, just remind everyone of your mock.
Yep, first up I've got Brian Brzee, defensive tackle from Clemson. Second first rounder, Khalil Ringo, cornerback Georgia. Second round, Jahmyr Gibbs, running back Alabama. And then the offensive guard, Osiris Torrance from Florida. Round 3, DeMarvion Overshown, inside linebacker Texas. 5, Brenton Cox Jr., outside linebacker edge from Florida. And the 6th, I've got quarterback Clayton Tune from Houston. And Jadakis Bonds, wide receiver from Hampton.
There we go. Ken Stout has given us his in the chat. He's gone with Will Anderson from Bama at 6. He's got Joey Porter Jr., the corner from Penn State. Jordan Battle, the safety from Alabama. Tyler Davis, the DT from Clemson. Tank Bigsby, the running back from Auburn. I know that would go down well. Zach Zinter, the guard from Michigan. Cody Mauch, the offensive tackle from North Dakota State. He's going to the Senior Bowl as well, I believe, so you're going to get a good look at him. I know you watch your FCS a bit more than I do. And then he's got Zach Kuntz, the tight end from Old Dominion, if fit, to end that. So, interesting one there. I don't know much about Mauch, but, the Dakota teams are pushing out tackles into the draft. Both of them had one last year. And North Dakota have got another one this year. He's maybe one to watch out for under the radar.
Yeah, very long-term starter. He's grown a lot. He's been part of a very successful team, and he's going to be key to victory in the FCS Championship. So they're going to rely on him very heavily. Be a long-term, very experienced starter, a good project.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, that's everything with the mock drafts. I did have a Senior Bowl segment planned, but we've been going 2 hours and 15 now, so we'll save that for another week. We've got a lot of time to go through all these things. Plus, by next week, the Senior Bowl teams are likely fully done. The only one I wanted to mention, right, because I've gone through all these guys, one guy, I have never ever heard of in here. The quarterback Tyson Bagent from Shepherd. I don't even know where Shepherd play. Have you heard of him?
Nope. Sounds like a Div 2, Div 3 school.
Yeah. Anyone know where Shepherd is? But yeah, Tyson Bagent is one of the quarterbacks in there. It's interesting. You've got Jaron Hall, Clayton Tune, Jake Kane, and Max Duggan, and then this random guy from Shepherd. But must have something to it. But yeah, we'll do a more thorough, in-depth review of the Senior Bowl probably next week. We'll go through the roster, maybe give you all lists of guys to watch out for, underrated ones you should take a look at. So that will all be good fun there. Ken goes, Ronnie Bell, the wide receiver from Michigan, could well be available for our last pick. What are your opinions on Ronnie? I don't know if Ronnie's what we need. I like him, but I don't think he's what we need for this team. I don't know. Do you disagree, Ronnie Bell?
I did look at him. I feel like he's probably a 6-7 kind of guy. But he's very average, and the frame leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah, I think the only thing with him, we need an X receiver on the outside, at least one. That's why I've gone with Nacua. I don't think Bell fits in that mould personally. So, Grandizer goes, West Virginia is where Shepherd University is. Oh, fair dues. It's a Virginia State side. Must be FCS. But I've never heard of him. Grandizer also goes, how good is Savotier Dennis from Pittsburgh? Is he an inside linebacker or an outside linebacker? I think he's more of an outside linebacker. But I love Savotier Dennis, but everyone else on the panel prefers, is it Kalijah County, the other one? Is it Chauncey?
Yeah.
Is it Kalijah County or is it Chauncey? I can't remember.
Kalijah Chancey, something like that.
Oh, it's Kalijah. Everyone else loves Kalijah Chancey on that Pittsburgh line. I'm the only one who prefers Savotier Dennis. But Savotier Dennis is damn good. I think those Pitt guys are going to cause a stir in the NFL next year. There's going to be a couple of them. But yeah, Savotier, don't be upset if you draft him. He's really good. Ken goes, is he too small? I don't think it's to do with height with Ronnie Bell. I just think it's what we need. I don't feel like we need him right now. We don't need a him. For me, it's just my own personal thing. I think we need an outside X receiver. That's why I'm going for them. I could well be wrong. I'm just a guy on the internet. So, if you've got any other questions you want to ask us, by the way, because we're going to wrap this thing up in a couple of minutes' time, just put them in and then we'll do them. I'll just go through some of the house closing down bits first. But yeah, any questions, quickly put them in there. Actually, where are we? I've had a few comments in Twitch. So Big Aries says PFN has Osiris as the top guard. What do we think about BB from Kansas State? Is that Chad BB?
I think he's a very good second alternative if Torrance could be gone.
Yeah, I think. Who's the other one who's getting a load of love? It's the TCU one, isn't it? Steve Avila? Yeah. Steve Avila's another one who's really popular. But Baby's certainly a good option there. Cool Down Rat says the Shepherd Rams are the athletic team that represents Shepherd University in Shepherdstown, West Virginia, the Division 2 in the Division 2 intercollegiate sports. Doesn't give a division, but they're in the FCS somewhere. Right, well, the Shepherd quarterback is going to the Senior Bowl, so we'll do some we'll do some work on him there. Michael Hooks in the chat, he goes, would anyone draft Moody from Michigan in the last round? You must have just missed my mock draft because I literally drafted him with my last pick. I absolutely would draft Jake Moody. I think we need a kicker. And when you pick him with the last of the draft, I know Holmes is good at finding late round steals, but you get a starter in the late rounds at special teams, so I would absolutely draft Moody. Ken goes, don't say either of those names 3 times fast. Oh, Savotier or Kalijah, yeah. Don't be doing that all the time. In terms of next shows for the Rural Lions UK podcast, our main Detroit Lions podcast will be back tomorrow. We're talking about it, folks. It's the big one. Green Bay Packers preview. The Lions travel to Lambeau Field, to the heart of Cheeseland, with potential playoff implications on the line. In front of the world on Sunday Night Football. These are the games that we live for. It's going to be fun. We are getting some guests on from the British Green Bay Packers scene. So it's going to be good fun. Come and join us. Drop all your FTPs and your Packers hate in the chat. We will make sure he knows about it. It's going to be good fun though. And then for the college football podcast, me and Ryan will be back in a week. I've put TBD. We've got to decide what our path to the draft schedule is, but we will likely do some work on the Senior Bowl next week, and I will finally get around to doing all the player review tapes that I need to do. There's the Iowa defensive lineman, there's Jack Campbell, who I've picked, Dylan, the Washington State linebacker. I think there's a pair of them we've got lined up. I've got them all written down somewhere, so we'll probably do player reviews and Senior Bowl next week, but keep an eye on the announcements and we'll let you know what our schedule is going on to the draft. Anything else, Ryan, that you want to get off your chest before I go through the last few questions and get out of here?
I wanted to draft a tight end. I really like Dalton Kincaid, but I don't know where to put him. I want a tight end, but I feel like the masses just can't justify one. But I kind of want a game changer.
That's trouble. I didn't pick a guard in mine, and I want to pick a guard, and I didn't pick a tight end, and I kind of want to pick a tight end, but I think this year is flush with tight ends. I think you can get them all the way through and get some decent ones. Guard, I don't know. There's so many places you go. I'm just sort of in a defense-based mood at the minute, but this is going to change a lot going up. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with the Lions in terms of draft position, what we do in free agency. This is all going to change. So, yeah, there we go. Michael goes, came in late today. Well, thank you for joining us anyhow. I appreciate it. Grandizer goes, why is the stock for Zion Nelson Miami dropped? I don't know. I would have to check for that one. I'm not sure. Do you have anything on that one? There are hundreds of players to keep an eye on in college. That one slipped.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Probably because he plays for Miami and they're a trash football team. Michael goes, go Lions FTP. Grandizer goes, tight end Brant. Oh, God. The other Utah one. How do you pronounce his last name? Is it Keithy? Or Keithy?
Keithy, yeah.
So he says... So Keithy has been injured all season, hasn't he? And I believe he's going back to Utah next year. I think because his stock is dead. Well, not dead, but he's been injured all year. He needs to have a healthy season. So, yeah, Brant's going to go back to college. He ain't going to be in the draft this year. But his running mate Dalton Kincaid will be in, and he will get a lot of love in there. Ken goes, lots of tight ends, not as many guards in this draft. This is a really bad draft for offensive linemen, don't you think? Especially at the top. I was reading TDN's mock earlier, and they were really shoehorning guys in to the first round who shouldn't be there at all, just to get some offensive linemen in. But I think I've put my over-under at 3, and I think it's Paris Johnson, Skoronski, and oh God, what's his name? I think I had Torrance maybe as one of them, but I've only got 3. But it's a really bad year, which is weird, isn't it, for offensive linemen?
Yeah, there's some that really are hard to grade. Like, say, you got like Ladarius Henderson, who's a good guard. ASU, we got Jackson Kirkland, who's one of the premier guards. But they're either really good at pass pro or like run blocking.
There's no all-rounders, are there?
Yeah.
So I think the first round's going to be weird this year.
You've got guys like, say, Minty.
He was in. Yeah.
Andrew Voorhees as well. Like, where do we put him?
Yeah.
Someone's going to reach in the first for one of those 3 guys, absolutely.
I think so. The first round's going to be really weird this year. You've got a lack of quarterbacks, unless Richardson and Levis are taken really high. You've got a lack of wide receivers. You've got a lack of offensive linemen. So what's going to happen? Are the defensive backs going to take over? Are people going to get, taken early? Are teams going to reach? I think I'm with you. I feel like there's going to be a lot more reaching in this first round than usual this year. I don't know about you, but because of the premier positions missing, it could easily happen.
Yeah, like I say, there's going to be a lot of edges. Probably a lot of linebackers. I think we'll probably go early. Like I say, you got like T.O., you got Campbell, you got like Sewell, who is impossible to really grade right now. Without me saying like in workout, but you've also got Trenton Simpson. I say, is he going to go in the first? Is he going to slip? So there's a lot of high-profile linebackers too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a weird one. It's going to be a nightmare to try and predict as well. Cool Down Rat goes, are you drafting later round players specifically for practice squad, i.e. tight end? I mean, it's not a safe option to do that, because obviously you're wasting draft picks, but I guess with some of them, you might... I mean, Isaiah Hand might very well go to a practice squad, but I'd still rather draft him and keep him. But would you be doing that, sort of drafting him for the practice squad? And I think the overall theme is a lot of it would be development, wouldn't it? Like your wide receivers, you develop them, your edges, your linebackers, develop them while we've got deep classes for the future.
Yeah, unless you're in love with them, I won't take them in the 6th. Just let them go to free at UDFA. If you don't get them, you don't get them. But unless you're absolutely sold on them, like say like a backup quarterback, if you don't think you can get him UDFA, do you know what? Just throw a 6th round pick at him.
I mean, you've seen the amount of talent that's fallen in recent years. You had Ardarius Washington the year before. You had Jack Sanborn undrafted, who the Bears got for nothing. You've just got to be very proactive in the free agent market afterwards, I think, haven't you? Rather than trying to draft guys and keep them. Just let guys know you really want them and give them the offer as soon as the draft's done.
Yeah, we didn't get anyone I wanted to do the FA. Like I say, literally they're all off the board instantly.
Yeah, It's very, very brutal, but we seem to have done better in recent years. I think you forge the relationships as you're going along there. Oh dear, Grandad, have you just done this deliberately for me? I wanted to ask you about the Oregon State offensive tackle, so I'm going to do this bit by bit. So his first name, Malasala, then it's Almavi Laulu. Malasala Almavi Laulu. I swear he's done it deliberately. I don't know where to project him because I've not come across him just yet. I ain't gone deep on my tackles this year. Have you any comments there, or is that something we're going to have to look upon?
No. According to Draft Pulse, I don't recognise that name even like the top 10. So
no.
I'd have to.
Yeah, at the moment, Grandizer, we're kind of good on our day 1 and day 2 picks. The day 3 ones you've got to really sort of study, so I would not imagine anywhere high just for now, but hopefully I did his name justice. Right. I think that's just about everything. Cool Down Rat goes, any centres or offensive tackles to draft as guards? Anyone who comes up? Me, no. The Michigan centre has always been a centre. The Minnesota centre has always been a centre. I know Matt is all about Skoronski moving to guard, but you ain't spending your 6th overall pick on a tackle moving to guard. I can't think of anyone who would move into guard. I feel like the centres this year are all very centre-ish and not very versatile.
Yeah, like Andrew Voorhees, I don't know. I reckon probably projects maybe as a guard next level, but he's kind of played all over right now. So there aren't many guys that you're going to draft to purposely move if you don't know they can play it.
Is it Kirkland a tackle for Washington?
Yes.
And Jackson Kirkland's going to be drafted as a guard, I believe, isn't he?
Probably, yeah, but he's nearly 6'8", so he's going to be a big old guard. Yeah, that's going to work against him.
Yeah, so Jackson Kirkland will be the big one who you might draft, but I don't think you would just take him straight up as a guard. Don't take any of the centres as guards this year, is my advice. Tackles, I'd have to see a bit more with. But I think there's a good guard class in general. I think you just go out and get a good guard. Like I say, if you want a decent level guard, go and get Steve Avila from TCU. Go and get Andrew Voorhees. Go get one of those guys, and you're set. You got a guy who plays the position. Hell, even go for the Michigan one mentioned earlier, Minter. Very, very experienced right guard. So you've got that there. He does apparently exist according to Grandizer. Right. Thank you everyone who has joined us this evening on Twitch and on YouTube. We really appreciate you. We will be back again in a week to talk Senior Bowl and prospects. So please do come and join us for that. But do come and join us tomorrow on the main podcast when we talk Lions at Green Bay Packers. It is going to be an explosive episode with a lot of back and forth with Packers fans. So all is good there. Just remains for me to thank Ryan and Hank as always. Enjoy the football this weekend. The FCS playout of the FCS Championship is happening in North Dakota State, South Dakota State. The Nattie happens this weekend, Ryan? Is it the 8th? I think it's the 8th.
I think so.
Yeah, so Nattie happens this weekend. Georgia, TCU. Enjoy the games. You can find us all over the internet. YouTube, Roar of the Lions UK. Twitch, ROTL_UK. Facebook, our page, Roar of the Lions UK. Group, Detroit Lions Fans UK. One Pride Worldwide. Twitter, ROTL_UK. Instagram, ROTL_UK. And our website, www.roarofthelionsuk.com. You'll find all our game previews on there. Our written ones from our writer, Ash Soden. And yeah, thank you ever so much. We shall see you tomorrow. Enjoy your day. Take care. And #FTP. Go Lions.
Full pride.